Need to get council members online.
Oh, it's frozen.
Oh, missed dial.
Welcome to the GPS. That entry is not valid. Thank you. Please stand by. If you are the chairperson, please enter. You are the chairperson. You are the first participant to join the conference. Please stand by. You will now be placed into conference.
So we'll go ahead and take attendance soon, but we'll just start with the Pledge of Allegiance, which I didn't pre-warn you, but since we have the chief here, do you want to start us off in the pledge for old time's sake?
Time's sake, yeah.
That would be great. Thank you, Chief.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, I'll have you call the roll, please.
Tonight's roll call, Casagrande,
Here.
DeMoss,
Here.
Cease,
Here.
Osenga, McClure,
Here.
Buckland,
Present.
Mayor Terry.
Yes.
You have a quorum.
Madam Clerk, would you go ahead and just text Councilmember Osenga, just because we had a work session prior to this meeting, and then let's make sure he's able to get back online. So let's just pause and do that.
Just send me the number again.
Thank you. That's fine, he was with us for the work session, so let's just.
Okay.
Great, thank you. So we'll listen for him to chime back in. Next on the agenda is citizen comments on any subject except those items scheduled for public hearing. Madam Clerk, are there any citizen comments?
We do have a couple tonight. The first one is Charles McEldowney. Is that Osenga?
Councilmember Osenga, is that? Oh, good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so we're gonna call Charles McEldowney.
Hello?
Hi, Charles.
Yeah.
You are with City Council and you have 3 minutes for citizen comments.
Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to make you aware that the the North Pacific Fisheries Management Council is going to be voting on December 4th for the Cook Inlet Fisheries Management Plan. There's been a lot of controversy on that, and they've put out 4 alternatives, of which number 4 would basically close the Cook Inlet fishery to commercial fishing. So I would like council members on a personal basis, and of course the city as an entity, to comment, which has to be done before November 27th, or the day after Thanksgiving. I believe the clerk's office gave a packet or an announcement in an email to you folks today. Is that true?
Yes, I forwarded it.
Okay. So anyway, it's a pretty easy thing to go through. A lot of times I know it gets complicated when people ask you to do stuff, but it's only a 2.5-page deal. You go right to the comments section. Basically, what the gist of it is if we could, eliminate alternative 4 on that list, and which would close the fishery altogether. And most fishermen, processors, people in the agencies are recommending alternative 2, which would need a little bit of changes in there right now in order to comply with the Magnuson-Stevens Act. But there's already people within the organization that know all of those changes that need to be made. So I'm just requesting that City Council, the city, and members of the community go to that website and make comments stating alternative 4 should be denied and alternative 2 is the best option for our community. That's what I had to say. Hopefully it's easy to understand. Also, there may be someone else who signed up that has a lot more details who's going to be discussing. I know he tried to, Robert Ruffner may be speaking to you as well tonight.
He will be, shortly.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
And next, we're going to call Linda Paquette.
Hello.
Linda, hi. You're with City Council, and you have 3 minutes for citizen comments.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, citizens, City Council members, administration, members of the public. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with you. The City Manager report includes a paragraph from Public Works regarding the wastewater treatment lagoon on Lowell Point. If you'll recall at the last meeting, the Public Works Director indicated there was an airline leak in the south cell. And the council member asked about the north cell, where the broken biodome electrical lines from the winter of 2018-2019 were, and council and the public were told that they had already been repaired. If you visit the lagoon now, the north cell is drained to the lagoon floor, exposing all the biodomes and the liner. The south section is drained to the top of the wall. So given that the lagoon is in such a compromised condition, I wonder if the citizens of Seward have been informed and have the suggestions been made to go easy on the septic system. Thanksgiving's coming up. There's usually conversations about what not to do, like pouring grease down the drain, things like that. And at this point, I should think that you might consider asking folks not to flush toilet paper and to only flush when they're solid. It's extreme, but I have to tell you, currently life is very unpleasant on this point. It stinks a lot and often. I couldn't spend time outside on Sunday. The odors over on Beach Drive were ridiculous. I want to remind council and administration that it's just been 5 years since the dredge occurred. And the 3 years before the dredge were extremely traumatic to the Lowell Point community. We were severely traumatized by the ongoing hydrogen sulfide that made life truly miserable. You were really bad neighbors. It's unfortunate to observe that you're being bad neighbors again. There's been no communication with the community as a whole and no timeline offered. How long will we be expected to live with the lagoon under repair? There are always outside projects that need doing. It would be nice to know when the outdoors will return to normal. Ever since they completed the dredge and all the new equipment and the biodomes were installed, the lagoon has continued to have odor issues. You must understand that the lagoon never stank for almost 30 years except for an occasional burp. Ever since the repairs got done, smells have persisted. I have begged council over the past 3 years to get someone to evaluate the changes and find out why the smells persist. I'm asking you again. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Good night.
Right.
Next is Robert Ruffner.
This is Robert.
Hi, Robert. You are with City Council, and you have 3 minutes for citizen comments.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Robert Ruffner. I reside over in Soldotna, and I'm calling in tonight to talk with you about a fisheries-related issue that affects Seward and particularly the processing plant. It's a rather long story to try to tell in 3 minutes, but there was some legal action that was brought forward to the federal government about 2 or 3 years ago, and it's resulted in a number of discussions and actions that have led to the federal government creating some alternatives on how to deal with compliance with the Magnuson-Stevens Act in federal waters. There's a court order that requires them to have their plan put forward at the end of December. And at the last meeting of the North Pacific Fisheries Management Council, they put forward an alternative to just close federal waters in Cook Inlet. So this would take out a fairly significant area of salmon fishing grounds in Cook Inlet. And why Seward should be concerned about this is that a fairly significant portion of salmon that come over to Icicle, now OBI Seafoods, comes from those grounds, that fishery. So closing them is going to has a pretty high probability of having a negative impact on the number of fish and availability of being processed in Seward, which will have a detrimental impact to your community. So I'm working with the seafood processors on the Keeman Peninsula and trying to get some outreach. It's an urgent matter in that, as I said, the court has ordered that they have this decision made by the end of December. The final action from the regulatory body that would make this call is meeting the week of December 7th to take it up, and it would behoove the communities of the Kenai Peninsula to weigh in on this. So I understand that there's Open Meetings Act requirements, etc. The other communities on the peninsula are dealing with this as well. The city of Kenai is holding a special meeting tonight specifically to take this up, and Homer scheduled one for next Wednesday. I think I will pause there and see if there are any questions. I think I'm probably close to my 3-minute time frame.
We'd have to relax the rules to ask you a question, but I do have one question, so if no one has any objections. So, I have a question for you. If we're able to work on this and work with our administration and figure out our best course of action and perhaps bring something to council on December 7th, if we could turn something around and have it available for a meeting on December 8th or 9th, would that be adequate time for us to get up to speed and have council action on something?
It's a good question. The putting things in the public record for that regulatory November 27th for those comments to go in.
Okay.
However, they will take public comments verbally at their December 7th meeting. So it kind of just depends on where that item falls on their agenda that week that they meet. I might suggest that, if there's any concern at all, one of the things that the steward could do is, suggest that the mayor or the city manager just inform that regulatory body that they are taking it up formally on December 7th, and they would like to be able to present their, whatever you come up with on the night of the 7th to the council, and hope that they don't take this issue up until the 8th.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, sir. We're back on the record. If you have any, I think we stopped your time. If you just want to have a couple seconds to wrap up.
I just hope that I characterized the issue well enough, and being able to speak with someone from OBI Seafood would really be valuable, I think, for the community to help make their decision. I mean, we just had a terrible year this year in the processing, with COVID-related stuff, and I'm very discouraged to hear that we might have a closure that would really be detrimental to our processors.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir, for bringing this to our attention.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. Next is a citizen comment from Carol Griswold, and this is in response, just to put it in perspective, to the laydown I sent out earlier from Tyler Florence regarding the camping fees. Carol writes, Dear Council, I totally support the higher proposed camping fees as an alternative to of the laydown. There is no shortage of customers for the municipal campgrounds. The city should not be undercutting private campground rates, and the city needs the income. Thank you, Carol Griswold.
And Madam Clerk, that's all then?
No, ma'am.
Okay,
There are two more.
thank you.
So, well, with council's permission, this one came in 10 minutes after the deadline. And the second one is a call out that she attempted to get through to the office to make a verbal request and came in via email later.
Yeah, I think in this age of COVID.
Okay, this one's long, so I'm gonna time it.
Okay, thank you.
From Brianna Murphy. My name is Brianna Murphy, and I'm one of the authors of the Kelp Farm proposal being between Lowell Point and Tonsina Point. I wanted to first apologize to the Seward community for not making myself more available during this public comment period to receive any feedback from the community or clarify any questions people may have regarding the proposal. I recently moved to Seward and don't have much of an online presence, so I wasn't aware of the very active conversation going on throughout the community until just recently. I have been made aware of some pushback to the farm and would like to respond to it briefly. My business partner and I both commercial fishermen during the summer months and are excited about the prospect of bringing a sustainable business to Seward that operates throughout the winter, when tourism and fishing activities slow down. Kelp farming is new to the U.S. and Alaska, and although much more research needs to be conducted, especially specifically within Alaskan waters, there are many positive studies that indicate that kelp farms greatly improve the quality of the surrounding waters. Research that has been conducted on kelp farms in New England and Europe indicate that kelp removes excess carbon dioxide, nitrogen, and phosphorus in the water and oxygenates the surrounding waters in ways that create a beneficial habitat in structure and environment for juvenile fish and small invertebrates, which I believe are part of the diet for young feeder kings, though I'm not completely familiar with this fishery and would be interested to hear the thoughts of local fishermen. Existing research indicates that recreational fishing can be strengthened with the existence of a kelp farm in the area. I also understand that much of the pushback does not center around potential impacts to water quality and is more specifically related to recreational areas being reduced. Kristen and I are both commercial fishermen ourselves. We are very sympathetic to any potential impacts our farm may have on existing uses of the waters and fisheries. Of the 28.9 acres of the farm, only approximately 8.3 acres of that area will be active farming space. The remaining acreage is there to account for the anchors maintaining the farm's structure. We plan to remove our anchors each year following the harvest around April and reset them during the seeding period in October or November. We believe committing to removing this equipment will ensure that there is minimal conflict with recreational fishermen and tourists during the peak summer months. The potential farm site also leaves adequate room for users to navigate around the site, and again, only 8.3 acres of the farm site will be active farming space, where buoys will mark the underwater seeded lines. Again, I apologize for my absence during this period of public comment, and I would be happy and open to hearing any thoughts or commentary people may want to share. Please feel free to contact me directly at murphybriannam@gmail.com. Please let me know if there's anything else that I need to do for these comments to be read aloud.
Thank you.
And then, last one is a call out to Rhonda Hubbard. That was her home number. I
Hello, you just reached Jane on Fisheries, Hickok Fisheries LLC.
Should I try the cell phone?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Hello?
Rhonda, hi. This is Brenda, and you are with City Council, and you have 3 minutes for citizen comments.
Okay, thank you. I am going to be complimenting comments that came in from Robert Bruckner and Charles McAdowney regarding the federal management plan that is attempted to be applied to the Cook Inlet fishery. And I know this is last minute request of council in the city of Seward. It's rather annoying, but I think you were, the earlier testifiers gave you information on where this originated from, and there's more information that I had actually forwarded to Brenda today, as well as a letter from that the city of Kenai will be writing to the council that could possibly help you outline a letter addressing this issue. So I think that would probably be helpful for you to consider. It would be too late for to try to address this at the next council meeting on the 7th, since the Fisheries Management Council will be meeting right that week as well. So anyway, I just encourage the City of Seward to please consider this, as it will have impact on our salmon fishery. It's unfortunate how it all came about, but it is what it is, and just ask the city to give this some attention and put it on your urgent quadrant, if you will. So, and I'm available as well as the other testifiers, I'm sure, for any clarification that's needed in the future in the near future to address this. So, thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda. Good night.
Good night.
Okay, that is all, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next on the agenda is the approval of the agenda and consent agenda, and I'm looking for a motion in a second.
I move to approve the agenda and the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Looking at the agenda, I'll first go to the folks on the phone. Councilmember Osenga, did you have any changes to the agenda?
No, I did not.
Thank you. Councilmember DeMoss? Councilmember
I do
Casa?
not.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Casagrande?
No, I do not.
Thank you. I'll look to the dais. I'm gonna try to add, I'll do one at a time. I would like to add resolution 2020-083 to the consent agenda. Are there any objections from folks on the line? Okay, thank you. And then I'd also like to add item 9B8, and that's approve the Friends of the Jesse Lee Home versus the City of Seward settlement to the consent agenda. And I'll just give a shout out to folks on the phone. Are there any objections to that one being added to the consent agenda? Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Yep.
If I can just draw your attention to
There's-
resolution 083 that you requested to put on consent. It appears that there's a substitute resolution that's been included in the packet, and that will not be approved on consent. So
Okay.
you will take it up and then accept the.
So I can't say put the substitute resolution on the consent agenda?
Yeah, I appreciate it, but.
Okay.
Oh, oh well.
And then since the agenda's open, you know, I noticed that the October 2020 City and Providence financials, did I just miss them in the packet, or? We'll have to maybe include those in.
Yeah, I'll look into that.
Okay. Okay, so the only item that was changed to put on the consent was approve the Friends of the Jesse Lee Home versus the City of Seward settlement. Okay, I think we're ready for a vote, Madam Clerk.
Voting on tonight's agenda and consent agenda as amended. DeMoss?
Yes.
Buckwan,
Yes.
McClure,
Yes.
Casagranda,
Yes.
Cease,
Yes.
Osenga,
Yes.
and Mayor Terry.
Yes.
Your agenda and consent agenda are approved, and approved on tonight's consent agenda. The November 4th, 2020 City Council special meeting minutes, the November 9th, 2020 City Council regular meeting minutes. You have a non-objection to the renewal of the liquor license number 2790 beverage dispensary seasonal for Ray's Waterfront Bar and Grill. You have canceled the December 28th, 2020 City Council meeting in observance of the holidays. And you have approved the Friends of the Jesse Lee Home versus City of Seward settlement.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is special awards presentations and reports, and we are recognizing retiring Police Chief Tom Clemens. So, I guess in this age of COVID, can the camera see you? They're sitting there? I think we'll both stand up. I won't come stand by you, unless, I'll stand up, unless you'd like to stay seated. What works better?
Stand up.
Okay. And then, I know normally I'd give you a big hug,
Right.
but let me read this out. We're so happy to have you with us tonight. So whereas Tom Clemens started his career in law enforcement in 1971 in Petersburg, after a short stay with the police department, he gained employment with his beloved Alaska State Troopers. And whereas during his time with the Alaska State Troopers, Tom worked all over the state, but spent large portions of his career in Southeast and Anchorage. Whereas he was a search and rescue coordinator, worked with the Alaska Pipeline near Paxton in the wild days during its construction, became an investigator, promoted to sergeant and first sergeant, and became an aircraft pilot before leaving the troopers. Whereas after his retirement from the troopers, he became chief of police in Sandpoint, and later he became chief of police in Wrangell, where he worked for many years. And whereas in 2003, he became chief of police in Seward, where he had always wanted to work. And whereas he is, well, who wouldn't want to work here? So, whereas he is credited with revamping the police department, modernizing policies and procedures, and making Seward a family-friendly place to celebrate our nation's holiday on the 4th of July. And whereas Tom Clemens has been a longtime member of both Rotary Club and the Lions Club, and he enjoyed the involvement and interaction with other civic-minded citizens. And whereas Tom Clemens has been well known for his deep love of commitment to his profession and his tireless long hours spent trying to give a voice to police officers in Seward and around the entire state. And whereas he has become deeply involved with the International Associations of Chiefs of Police, and he spent nearly 20 years as a board member of the State Association of Chief of Police. And whereas in 2018, Clemens became the first Alaskan law enforcement officer to sit on the board of the IACP and represent the state's small police departments on the national level. And whereas after roughly 50 years of service to the people of Alaska, Tom will achieve a well-deserved break. The Seward Police Department and the people of Seward sincerely thank him for his commitment, innovation, devotion, and loyalty to the community he has served all these years. Now therefore I, Christy Terry, Mayor of the City of Seward, Alaska, do hereby thank Tom Clemens for his many years of service and his numerous contributions to the Seward Police Department, and wish him all the best in his retirement. Dated this 23rd day of November 2020. So I have one more special thing for you. And I have to say, one of the highlights of being on council in the past was our trip to our sister city in Japan, when it was their anniversary and they invited people to come, and we just had a wonderful time. But this is a gift from council and staff to you. This is your handsome picture with all of our signatures around the matting, and we just want to thank you for all your years of service here. And I'm going to give you the chance to say a few words, sir.
Well, I've got probably a lot of things I could say, but I don't want to take up all your time. We'll go with 3 minutes. So, I just want to say it's been an honor and a privilege to be the chief of police. I have met some wonderful people here that I love and going to miss because we're moving to Montana. All these years of serving as a law enforcement officer has been great. I've had opportunities I would have never had any other time. And I cannot tell you, I just absolutely love working for Seward. I wanted to be in Seward for years. I tried to get the troopers to transfer me here for years. And the colonels kept saying they had other plans for me. I don't know what those plans were because Glenn Goffey's dead, and so I'll never know that. But I got here anyways, on my own, without him. And it's been a privilege, I cannot tell you. I've met council, good people on the council. I've met great people in the city that I will remember forever. And I didn't really get to retire like I wanted to because I got sick. But my kids have been hounding me for years to retire. And now they're very, very happy that I'm retired. And they wanted me to pass that on to you guys, that it's a good thing for everybody that it's time for me to retire. Almost 50 years in this business is too long. And I can tell you that for a fact. If I had to do it all over again, I would do something different, but just couldn't get away from it. And now it's my time. Thank you very much for letting me serve the community. And I hope they remember this has been a good time for everybody. You have a great police department over there. People you should be proud of because they really care. And that, you know, in this day and age where police aren't looked up to as much as they used to because of the actions of just a very, very few policemen who shouldn't have been there anyways, in my opinion. These guys, they care about you guys. They want to work hard for you guys. And they always will be there for you. And I promise you the work that they do is unbelievable. I've been proud to have been part of that unit. And so I can't really say when it's warm because I don't want to do that. And I will miss you guys.
Thank you, Chief. And I don't want to not recognize, I know that in law enforcement, perhaps the spouses have even a harder job. So I just want to take a minute and recognize Tricia's service as a spouse and just give her some applause.
She's been a big help, but without her, that might not have gone as good. So.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all. I know we have some, there's another presentation.
So you know you're going to get the plaque.
Okay.
So we have presented to Chief Tom Clements in sincere gratitude for the 17 years of compassion, guidance, and outstanding leadership you've provided to the Seward Police Department and the citizens of our town. June 11th, 2003 to November 9th, 2020. After climbing the mountain, you can finally enjoy the view.
And then it looks like,
We have this as well.
oh, that's beautiful.
And so we wanted something that, you know, we had talked about your man cave where you're going to end up. And when you're telling stories, we wanted you to be able to point to something and say, I was here. And we know how you love Alaska, so we hope that you can enjoy that.
Yeah, thank you very, very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, I've been to almost all those places.
So that's what we said, he'd be able to say, yeah, I went here and I went here.
Yeah, there's very few places and villages I haven't been to, so it's really great. I love going into villages too, hang out with the elders because I learned so much from the native population.
Can you turn it around?
Can you put it up
And I
so I can
appreciate
get a
it.
picture with him, in front of him again where you had it?
Go like this. You're like Tricia.
Yeah,
That's
thanks.
all right.
Well, we know when you tell the stories so that Seward will be your favorite place.
It'll be my favorite, yeah. I've got a few stories here too,
Yeah.
so. The stories are better when I'm younger, I gotta tell you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much again.
Thank you.
I appreciate
you.
everything
Thank you,
guys
Tom.
have done.
Very
Take care
much.
of my town. It's always been my town, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. We'll try to get all this stuff out of here. So.
Yeah, take your time. Thank you, guys. Thanks for coming tonight.
Maybe you should hold the picture up so the audience can see it.
I'll help take this out for you guys.
Yes, she didn't.
She got the picture. What do you want?
See the television, see it.
Towards where
Oh.
George is on
Oh.
the
George
board.
is.
They'll show it.
It's a little upside down.
Oh. Sorry, Amber.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mandy.
Bye.
Thanks, Lieutenant.
Sorry.
Yeah, we did kind of. I know,
We'll
sorry.
have to come back and get so.
Yeah,
can-
yeah,
I
of
can
course,
hear it.
of course. Not-
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
See ya.
Next on the, sorry, it's hard to transition from, next on the agenda is the city manager's report. More.
Mayor, council members, public. So we issued up some POs here since the last meeting, and $10,380 for warehouse stock electric department, $5,418 for a pressure washer at SMIC for the washdown pad, $11,530 for the police for new radios in the vehicles that was purchased, the resolution you passed. $12,000 for city clerk for online business license permit and inspection portal, and that was also passed in the resolution. MIS, $27,740 for Barracuda email and office, 365 security and backups suite. Again, missed. $14,226 for Microsoft Office 365 yearly license. And another one for missed, $14,000 for email migration services. And in the fire department, $5,800 for Nixle, the 360 contract payments that was approved in resolution 2020-008. And the electric, $8,462 for a welder and plasma cutter. And water department, $9,966 for a new Chevrolet truck topper, which was approved in your resolution. And then again, the water department, $35,000 for new truck, which was passed in the resolution.
Thank you. So I'll look around for questions. This time I'll shake it up and start with the dais. Are there any questions? Councilmember Cease?
I know that you told me to call if I had a question, but why does the police department need a pickup? 150.
A pickup?
That, well, isn't a F-150 a pickup?
So, yes ma'am. So, the reason that we've been wanting a pickup truck for years is that every so often, we have, camps or, old stolen materials that are out in the woods or whatever. Like if there's illegal camping up on the mountainside or something like that, and we have to go pull that stuff out of there. As you guys all know, it has a tendency to rain here, and that stuff gets really nasty. And when you put it into our closed-up cars, it really makes the cars nasty. And so a pickup truck is going to be really helpful for us to take that kind of thing and put it into the bed of the truck and haul it over here, and then we can get it dried out in the shop and all that kind of thing. So. And they'll do all that before we bring it in, So that's the thought of it.
Okay, will it be driven all the time, or just when you need pickup?
It will be in use. The current plan is to make it either at the lieutenant level or the sergeant level vehicle, because it's obviously not going to be the type of vehicle that you want to be in a pursuit in. So that'll make it available for patrol if they need it to go pick it up and use it for whatever purpose.
Thank you.
Was that in the budget for the 1920 or 2021?
Yes.
Do you have any questions? I'll go to the phones. Councilmember Osinga, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Councilmember Demas, do you have any questions?
I do not, thank you.
And then Councilmember Casagrande?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mayor Terry. I am wondering about the library hours. It says that services are available by appointment and curbside delivery. With having children in school but not in school, and the house is getting smaller and smaller, we're looking for places to study. And I know there's a coffee house and local businesses have kept their doors open so that we have places to go. I'm just wondering, can somebody make an appointment to go to the library and study during these confined hours? Can you expand a little bit more on what that looks like?
Thank you. I'll turn it over to administration.
let me follow up on that. I don't see any reason why we couldn't make that happen. Of course, we want to be COVID conscious, and but if it's acceptable, I'll check in with the library and museum director, and we can find something to meet the needs that the community has.
That sounds great. So, Councilmember Casagrande, sounds like there'll be follow-up and we'll get information back and see what we can make available to the public.
Great, thank you. I do have one more question, if I may.
Yes?
There is an asterisk in the, and by the way, thank you for the thorough manager's report. This is really awesome. I just have a question on the asterisk next to the finance director. I noticed the one asterisk is explained, but if you could elaborate more on why the asterisk is next to the finance director, that'd be great.
And that's on page 7 of the packet. It could be a typo if there's no corresponding note to follow.
That's a typo. There was a memo under the personnel section last time, because the last time that the finance director was discussed, we had put a footnote in there that we were looking into whether GovHR would be utilized for conducting search. So it's just
Somebody needs to mute their phone.
Yeah, it sounds like there's an echo if folks are maybe listening or watching online.
Whoever just signed in.
Did someone just connect? We can't mute everyone. Can everyone mute their phones?
That's just a clerical error.
Thank you.
So Councilmember Casagrande, you heard it was just a holdover from the previous packet. Is there anyone online? Let's try this again.
Oh, there they are.
Coming back.
Who do we have on the phone with our wonderful technical difficulties?
Kathy Granda's here.
Okay, thank you.
Demoss is here. And I'm here. This is Liz.
Okay, thank you. So Casagrande, did you hear that explanation?
I did. That was crazy.
The aliens.
No, I thank you for that. And so just to follow up on that, then I know that it's still being advertised, the finance director position. I don't know if you guys went further, but are we still recruiting for that? Obviously, that's just in the packet. That stands true.
Administration.
Councilmember Casagrande, well, we should have more for you at that next meeting. It's the December 14th meeting.
December 7th.
7th, sorry, 7th.
The 7th is a work session.
Oh, it's the next regular council meeting.
Yeah, 14th
is
I
a work
thought it was
session.
14th.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, the 14th, we'll have something for you there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just have 2 things, actually 3 things. So I hope everyone attended some of those AML trainings this last week, and I'll have just a short report in the packet in the mayor's report for the next meeting. And then I know there's been a lot of questions from the public and even some council members on Zoom. So I was wondering if maybe at the next meeting we can have some sort of report on the status of maybe moving these to Zoom meetings, if we could. Just where we're at and maybe some steps moving forward, because we might be doing this for a while.
Yeah, so if council recalls, just real briefly, early on when we started with this emergency, the IT department was not really, they had some real concerns about using Zoom. And recently, the Zoom people have evidently made some changes and improvements. And so it's much more amenable to, or plays friendlier with the city's programs and systems now. And I think the only last little bit that's being solved for is citizen interaction and comment. So I think we're really close to having a solution.
Okay.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Actually, we have an update from Corey.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great.
Are you ready for me now?
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Mayor and council members. I wanted to update a little bit was I had written in my CMR for you. First on the rates, the new rates that went into effect for November sees City of Seward electric rates the lowest in the rail belt. And I've got them for you here, and I'll read them off to you, but they'll be in my next CMR, so you'll have them written there. But most expensive utility is Homer Electric at 24.21 cents a kilowatt hour. Golden Valley is next at 22.37 cents a kilowatt hour. Chugach Electric is at 20 cents, 20.37 cents a kilowatt hour. Matanuska Electric is at 19.90 cents per kilowatt hour, and City of Seward is at 18.88 cents per kilowatt hour. While the bill for the cost of power from Chugach had dropped because there are so many fewer kilowatt hours sold in the month of October, which is typical, by the way, that abated or kind of modified the drop from the Chugach rates. But certainly the winter rates that went into effect that this council has as part of the tariff led us to about a 3-cent per kilowatt hour drop. So I think you can see that the utility here with your direction and your setting of the rates has got City of Seward, I think, positioned fairly well. It reminds me that the rate case is being worked on, and we owe you a work session, and I'll be working with Madam Clerk to get that set up here, hopefully in December, which before Christmas. We'll see how time permits on that. I want to let you know that as we had this red flag alert from the governor and everything else on this COVID, it led me to think that we had to have serious discussions with someone else who could engage in mutual aid assistance if our utility workers were to become affected by the COVID-19. I've engaged in those discussions with Chugach Electric, and we've talked about a mutual aid. They would be interested in our linemen also working, assisting them in the Cooper Landing area because they've got the same things that we're doing, splitting crews into different. They also have what they call loop wagon, which is they have crews working at night instead of during the day to also separate crews. But they're very interested in further discussions, and we kind of have a handshake that if we have crews that are out due to COVID reasons, that Chugach would assist us. I've also will reach out to Homer, but they don't have as big a number of crews, so it's a little bit harder. It also requires some negotiation and discussion with the unions, because we all have provisions in the contracts that we can't loan out employees unless there's emergency situations, but I think it would be an emergency if we had a pandemic situation. So we've also engaged in discussions with EPS to do backup for the power plant as well. And we're working on what that might look like. They mentioned that they back up Naknek Electric with plant operators for their power plant there. So that's something that they do and that they could possibly do here. EPS is the engineering firm that is like our plant engineer. Whenever we have an engineering question for the power plant, EPS is called and does the work on that. So they're familiar with the Fort Raymond power plant. We're working on communication for our line folks when they're out in the field. We think that is a significant safety issue. We do not at this point in time have truck-mounted radios, which needs to be rectified. You saw 2 radios that were purchased for the police vehicles. We got a comparable cost for our trucks, so they're not cheap, but they need to be in the vehicles so that radio help can be made. I've made a mandatory use of handheld radios, and we're working with police dispatch to make sure they're monitoring the radio from the line folks out in the field. they're out in the very remote areas. We need to know where they are at all times, and that's not been the case in the past. So as part of our safety efforts that are ongoing here, we think that's really important. We have 2 people in the office that are also monitoring radios, and I also have a radio and can listen to what's going on. We're talking about vehicle tracking systems, which is very commonplace. It requires discussion with the IBW. They've indicated and advised me that they believe it to be a mandatory bargaining item. And a mandatory bargaining item is any item that materially affects the working conditions of those working under a union contract. I'm not going to argue with them. We'll bargain it. They understand the safety benefits of this vehicle tracking system, and also for maintenance purposes on vehicles. So we've had the first discussion or bargaining over this, and at the end of the conversation, they said, well, we'll get there. And of course, they want to make sure that their employees aren't adversely impacted by having vehicle tracking systems on the vehicles, but they understand the benefits of the safety. And then also the utility credit was applied to bills that are just about to go out. That credit was $417.53, which you all remember. I added it up. The average bill for the city of Seward residential customer is $135.12. So you can judge whether your bill's above average or below average. But you know, that really is going to, I think, have a significant beneficial impact to the city of Seward residents, perhaps paying their electric bill for as much as 3 months. And then finally, I'll also in the next report be presenting to you the proposal, or actually the transaction of where the railroad utilities, the Bradley Lake utilities, are buying what we call the SQ line from Homer Electric. It's seen as a really good benefit for Bradley Lake. It's been situated so that it's project work, which means it won't come out of any one utility's pocket. It'll come out of what we call the excess payments that the utilities have to pay once the bonds are paid off next year. A lot of detail, but I think it's another reflection that the rail belt's working well together and getting this transaction going. And the SQ line goes from Soldotna to the Quartz Creek area, and it'll be owned by the Alaska Energy Authority as part of the purchase. So a lot going on, and I just want to end it with listening to the police chief of all these years here. I've only been here now like maybe 4 months, 5 months, but you start feeling a lot of pride in this community. It doesn't take very long to kind of feel like this is a really special place, and just wanted to express that. And I'm very grateful for this short time here, and we'll get a lot accomplished. Anyway, I went on a little too long, but any questions, I'd be glad to take it.
I don't think it's too long to get all that information. I'll check with folks on the phone. Are there any questions for the electric utility manager? Hearing none, I'll look to the dais. Great, thanks so much for
Thank you. Thanks.
And actually, I had 2 more things, not one more thing. Could we, Doug does do a good job of keeping us updated on Public Works also, but maybe it's time to have something more about the lagoon in the next manager's report, if possible. And then, just based on citizen comments, it really isn't appropriate for us to not have comments from all sides of the prohibition of fishing in federal waters in Cook Inlet. I do hear the concerns. I was hearing from OBI it's about 20 to 30% potential drop in salmon, which impacts our fish tax, it impacts, our employment, but we can't make any determinations tonight. So I just want to see if administration thinks that do we want to have a special meeting Wednesday night? That's pretty tight turnaround. We have a work session already scheduled for December 7th. We could have a special meeting that night, and then I'd be happy to volunteer and read comments at the meeting that week with that body. What do folks on council think? And maybe, I know administration maybe has a broader picture, so that's what I'm saying. We shouldn't make any recommendations tonight, but maybe there's something we need to look at later. So I'll look to folks on the dais first. I mean, I don't think we can, City of Kenai right now is passing some information. Do we want to have a special meeting Wednesday night? Do we want to look at the following week, December 30th? What do we want to do?
You mean November 30th?
Yeah, sorry, November 30th. Any comments?
I'm up for anything. But Wednesday, are you talking about?
Like a day after tomorrow?
That's Thanksgiving Eve, I don't think we ought to have.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, if we have something on December 30th, which is a November 30th, which is a Monday, we're still missing their comment period. So that's what I was thinking, if we have a special meeting on December 7th, and knowing that we will have the potential to read comments in, I'd be happy to volunteer. Vice Mayor?
If we were to have a special meeting on the 30th, could we appoint somebody to give public testimony on the 7th, possibly from someone else to read comments for the city on the 7th?
Yeah, if the meeting's not the 8th or the 9th. If it's
Yeah.
the 7th. So, council members on the phone, I'll start off with Osinga. Did you want to try to schedule a special meeting on this topic for November 30th?
I think I'm okay with that. There's definitely more information we need on this.
Yeah.
For sure, so I think we need to find out what we're looking at. So, a meeting is probably in order, I feel.
Thank you. Councilmember Demas?
I agree, I think a special meeting sounds good.
Councilmember Casagrande?
I'm open to a special meeting, whatever day works. I don't want to wait too long and miss any opportunity, so I'm open.
So I'll look to council, administration. The problem's gonna be, today's Monday, we have Tuesday, Wednesday, you guys are off. We want you off for the Thursday holiday to spend with your family and Friday. So I don't know if December 30th for a special meeting is even realistic. I mean, we
November.
could. Sorry, November 30th. So I don't know if like Wednesday, December 2nd, or Thursday, December 3rd, or what's the feedback from administration?
So administration we could do either one of those days, the 30th or the 1st, but I just wanted to let you know when I received this today, I, as also the harbor master, didn't know nothing about this.
Yeah.
And I called the harbor master from Homer, Brian Hawkins, and he didn't know about it either, but he also sent something out to his council when he found out about it, and he allowed me to send it off to you, so I'll get with the clerk, send off the letter that he sent to his council member with some other things. And I also reached out to United Fishermen of Alaska today. They didn't do nothing about it either. So Francis is head of the United Fishermen of Alaska, and Rhonda Harbor's a member also. Anyways, they're reaching out. They're trying to find out what's going on, and then they're gonna get back to me. But we can go with a special meeting. We might have more detail.
So what if we leave it open, because administration can call a special meeting. So what if we leave it open and shoot for either the 2nd or the 3rd, which is a Wednesday or a Thursday? The problem with the 1st is there's already a P&Z meeting. Would folks holler out if you would not have availability for December 2nd or 3rd?
I won't be here for 3rd.
You won't be.
So Madam Mayor,
Yep.
do you have to have, I've seen special meetings at noon before. I don't know if anybody can make them, but just a thought.
We could have.
There's PACAV,
Packets on the 2nd.
right.
Yeah.
Oh,
We could do a special meeting noon on the 3rd. Would you guys be open for that? Does
Absolutely.
that give you enough time?
that would be better for me,
Okay.
actually.
So let's do noon on the 3rd. And the topic is comments on,
Fisheries management plan for the
Yeah.
salmon fisheries in the EEZ off Alaska. That's what they have on there.
okay, perfect.
I can,
So noon, December 3rd. Okay. Thank you. And I'm sure there's lots more information and research, so thank you, administration. I don't have anything else. Does administration have anything else?
we do not.
Last chance? Okay. Next on the agenda is city attorney report, and that starts on page 24. Brooks, thank you for your earlier presentation. Oh,
Sam, I thought there was something wrong.
He's gonna turn that off.
can you text him?
Yeah. Turn down YouTube, I can't hear. Brooks?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
got you, thank you. You're on deck for your city attorney report.
Brooks?
Did we lose
Yeah.
you?
Okay.
I'm ready to rock and roll.
Okay, go for it, it's all you.
Okay, great. Yes, thank you for taking the time and allowing me to speak a little bit earlier this evening. This report is in your packet. It's page 24. It's been a relatively busy month in the legal department for the city of Seward. Of course, the size of the report doesn't necessarily reflect the size of the effort. I'll point out a couple things. There's a one-liner about the Jesse Lee Home matter approved earlier in the meeting, the settlement agreement. But this one line represents the culmination of a pretty significant effort. I want to recognize Sam Severn of my office, who did a lot of good work on this case, and Jackie Wild was invaluable in helping Sam out. And the follow-up to this should come in short order, and we need to be able to deliver a deed and a check within the next 2 weeks. Another item that was a significant amount of effort, but not one that I'm free to talk too much about, is resolving an employee grievance. That also was able to be put to bed in the last month. Those two are sort of out of the ordinary type things. The rest of what we were doing is a little bit more standard, apart from COVID, which is nothing close to standard. We've got a zoning enforcement referral from the planning folks. This occurs at a point where they have made sincere efforts to work with the property owner, but it has not resulted in compliance. So it gets referred to our office. We don't run off the court. We continue the effort to get compliance without initiating a court proceeding, but we basically been authorized to report it. That's what it takes. You have an upcoming union opener. I know you're well familiar with it because we've done that a couple of times. This is a COVID-related item because the negotiations are going to be conducted by Zoom, which you also mentioned a little earlier, and that means that sort of the standard, pull them out of the notebook ground rules that don't directly apply. So we reviewed and commented on some of the proposed ground rules, and I expect those negotiations will, whether they get underway next month or January, I think we're still going to be in a situation where those negotiations will have to be conducted by Zoom. And a pet policy review, that's going to be coming to council for approval probably within the next month. And we did look at the council regulations that's in your packet, and we'll be active on later this evening. I'm going to hang around, so if you have some questions on that, I'll be available. I'm not going to keep on the phone, but I'm able to use the YouTube, so I can, if you need me, I'll be able to figure that out and pull that in. And a couple of other ordinary matters, a contract for Lily Repair, that's taken off the agenda as well. And we did do a sort of formal opinion on a difference between charter language and code language when it comes to council approval of hiring of full positions in the city. And been able to complete with all of the other work that's been going on is the recodification. There are a couple of issues that were raised by the code review attorney that involve constitutional questions and whether or not code language that is, fairly old remains legal, so to speak, in the wake of a couple of United States Supreme Court cases. And we're going to be taking a look at that and making a call and looking at on getting the final package together. And that does it for my report. Happy to take questions.
I'll check with folks on the phone first. Councilmember Elsinga, do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Councilmember Demas?
I do not, thank you.
Councilmember Casagrande?
No, I don't.
Thank you. I'll look to the dais. Are there any questions for the city attorney? I'll just say thanks again for your presentation earlier and thanks for your report in the packet.
You're welcome.
Okay, next on the agenda is item D1, Chamber of Commerce report. And that's found on page 26 of your packet, and we are giving Director Jason Bickling a phone call as I speak.
Hello.
Hi, Jason, you're with City Council.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Hope you're well. I'm just going to go over a few items that are not on my report. First, we had a great small business startup week last week, and I just want to thank Vice Mayor LaPont for being kind of one of the facilitators on how to start your small business. And we had actually a very large audience. We had 15 people that were interested on getting information on kind of how the basics of getting your small business going. And just appreciate all the other people that were involved in that call as well. Just with permitting, Jessica Stallard and just a number of people. So that went really well. And it's great to see a lot of people that are interested in starting businesses. Another thing just to that's coming up here soon is that we do have the Shop Small Safely weekend coming up this weekend, and we will have a great event on Monday, on Cyber Monday, and it will be a Facebook Live auction event, so be looking out for that. And just a few other things is that we are looking at some options to help our local businesses connect, become kind of have an e-commerce side to them. So we'll be doing some chamber presentations on that to help them kind of expand the way that they can do. And just having conversations about next summer and getting things in place to make whatever happen that we can safely, whether it's cruising or other types of things. So, any questions?
I'll check on the phone. Are there any questions for the chamber director?
I think I have a question. This is Councilmember Casagrande. In the CARES update breakdown, there's three different sections there. One being the Kenai Peninsula State CARES breakdown, and then Seward State CARES money. Is there a breakdown of how it was distributed with our city of Seward CARES money? And I don't know if that would be in the chamber or if that's something that administration can give us.
Those are just the, I think those are just the state numbers that Tim Dillon gave me directly, and so I don't know if those are divided out further or not. So that's kind of pass through of information there.
I think those were provided in previous, Councilmember Casagrande, before you're joining council, I think we had those distributed to us, so we'll make sure that you get a copy of those.
Thank you.
Jason, I might just say congrats to the remaining and new chamber board members. I know that your board went from a 7 to a 12 member board, is that correct?
Yeah, we went from a 9 to a 12 member, and we'll be pushing that. I was able to contact some people. We certified those elections last week, and I was able to contact everyone today, and so we'll
for doing a safely shop small weekend and just making changes to mitigate COVID, but also making sure that our local businesses are feeling the love. And I just want to encourage folks in Seward to participate, and then also with your Cyber Monday event. So thanks for working on those two things.
Yeah, no, we have a great team that's working hard.
Great, thank you so much, and thanks for your thorough report in the packet also.
Yeah, have a good evening.
Thank you, Jason. Good night.
So next on the agenda is a budget presentation by Acting Finance Director Sam Hickok. And is Sam gonna be on the phone?
Should be on the phone. Sam, are you there?
Yep, can everyone hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you really clearly. So we're not gonna stick to the 10-minute rule, but I will say that I might ask council members if they have questions to follow up with you after your, follow up with you either through the clerk or with you directly, if that's okay with the administration, at a later date on your presentation. But I'll turn it over to you and let you get going.
Awesome, thank you. And I would just like to ask you guys to bear with me. I am currently getting over the coronavirus, but I'm doing well. But I'd like to just jump in on the first slide, if you guys are ready.
Yeah, go for it. Thank you. We have that slide up for us.
Yep, go ahead to the next slide.
Okay.
I think he's watching online, there's a delay.
Yeah, sorry, there's a little bit of a delay on YouTube, but we have that slide up.
Alright, gotcha. Alright, so just jumping right into the general fund. You can find this on page 37 of your budget book. So currently the general fund is about a $12 million annual budget. About half of it is funded by sales tax, by 7%. Charges for services contributes 26%. Property tax, which is currently 3.84 mils, is 12% of our budget. Intergovernmental is 7%. Bed tax, which is 4%, brings up 5%, and then other is 4%. The general fund is the only fund legally required to have an approved budget, and that is from the state statute. But we do currently approve budgets for all of our enterprise funds as well. We must present a balanced budget, or we have to have the fund balance to cover the deficit. But we always make it a point to present a balanced budget to council. We have a policy of 3 to 6 months of expenditures and transfers out in unassigned fund balance at all times. At the end of 12/31/2019, we had 6.18 months, which is very high. That's always good. And the general government, public safety, public works, recreation, library, and debt service make up the general fund. Next slide. So these are a couple important general fund policies that were adopted way before my time, but we continue to put them into place. The only one I really want to point out is the capital acquisition fund policy. The city will designate 50% of the previous year's annual surplus, which is defined as the difference between revenues and transfers in and expenditures and transfers out, into the capital acquisition fund for the purpose of financing major capital maintenance and repairs in any year where the general fund balance is within the band of established policy levels. So basically, any year that we come out on top, we immediately take 50% of that and transfer it into the capital acquisition fund to fund future projects. We've done this consistently in the past, and we hope to bring a resolution for the end of 2020 to do the same if we come out on top. Next slide. So general fund, we have 8 enterprise funds: harbor, SNC, parking, electric, water, wastewater, hospital, and Mountain Haven long-term care facility. And these enterprise funds operate like a business. They are funded by charges for services. For example, in the harbor, moorage, parking funds, parking fees, and then electric, water, sewer, utility sales. These budgets are not legally mandated, so we do practice adopting them by council anyway. And on top of that, the general fund must legally cover shortfalls of any enterprise fund. For example, in the past, we've had to transfer cash into SNC fund to cover their shortfalls. But this year, I think, will be the first year that we will not have to do that.
Yay.
And then we have 2 internal service funds currently, the motor pool, which, as everyone knows, departments pay into monthly to fund future vehicle purchases. And this is a really important fund that we need to continue to pay into for enterprise funds and general funds, because it allows us to purchase vehicles in the future when all of ours are depreciated. And it's based on the number of vehicles in the department. At the end of 2019, we have $3.8 million available in that fund. The other internal service fund is the compensated absences fund, and that's just accrued annual leave liability for general fund employees. That has to be recorded separately from enterprise funds. Then we have special revenue funds. These are specific revenue sources with restricted expenditures. The main one that we have is the bus transportation fund, which we all know that we use CPV money to fund the bus that runs in the summer. And then we also have Alpar, litter funds, and then disaster funds as they come up. Then we have capital project funds, and we acquire or construct major capital facilities and equipment in these funds. The main one that we use for the general fund is the capital acquisition fund, and then we have a specific one for streets and sidewalks, and then we set up a separate one via resolution for the animal shelter. These are not represented in the budget book, but they are included in the financial statements in the CAFR. So moving to the budget process, which I have outlined in the budget book on page 15, council must adopt an appropriate budget by resolution no less than 10 days before the end of the year, and that's in the city code in 5.05.015. And typically how it's done is in July, we distribute the budget directions and forms to department heads. In August, department budgets are due to finance. The finance department prepares the personnel budget, allocations, insurance, depreciation, things like that. In September, capital budgets are due to finance. So those are the capital project related items specific to each department. And then the city manager and the finance director meet with department heads individually. In September, we usually have the kickoff work session. And that's when we let everyone know the budget assumptions, policies, major issues of current cycle, and that's when we get council input. Finance develops revenue projections and cost estimates of insurance, debt service, administrative fees, etc. In October is when we start to have work sessions, and that's when we distribute the preliminary budget document to council. And then in November and December, we have one public hearing, and then a second public hearing and adoption of the budget. Every year we have an annual audit. We have a 12/31 fiscal year, which is different than the borough and the state. They have a 6/30 fiscal year. Audit preparation takes place between December and February typically. It's a lot of hands-on work. And then field work, which is when the auditors come down and ask us all the questions, ask for documentation for everything. That happens between mid-March to mid-April. And then once they leave, we have the post-audit work, which is follow-up requests. We write the transmittal letter, the management discussion and analysis, and the statistical section. Then the auditors prepare and print the CAFR. And then sometime, hopefully in June, we have the presentation to council and public. In the past, it's been delayed due to the final numbers from the state in regards to the PERS requirement, and then recently COVID. So that's why it's been late in the past, but hopefully in the future we'll be back to the June. And I just wanted to point out resolutions and agenda statements. And appropriating funds is really important to the finance department. That's what triggers us actually doing the journal entry to appropriate funds to purchase something or to go into a contract. It's required for all non-budgeted items. So if you see a dollar sign in the title of a resolution and there's no "and appropriating funds," that means it's already included in the budget. No appropriation is necessary. The fiscal note on the agenda statement describes funding source, and any fiscal impact account coding is not required here. That's important. I don't like to put the account coding in the fiscal note and in the resolution. It's only required in the resolution. And I just wanted to point out the account structure that we use. So we have a very complicated 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fund number account structure. So the first number is your fund number. 01000 is the general fund. And then every enterprise fund has its own special fund. The second number is department. Third number is GL, which is your line item, like your audit, operating supplies, subscription and dues, that kind of stuff. And then the fourth number is the project code. And we use this number to track specific projects. The one that I put in there is 0080, and that's what we used for COVID-19. And then the last number is transfer. You only see this last number when we're transferring money between funds. Council action is required for all transfers between funds. However, the city manager can transfer budgets between departments within a fund, but only council can transfer money between funds. And I am happy to answer any questions.
Great. Well, just knowing our time, I'll see if there's any quick questions. Osenga?
I have no questions, thank you.
Demas?
No, I don't, thank you.
Casa Grande?
No, thank you.
I'll look to the dais. I guess it's not so much a question, but just a note that, and then on the off years for the budget, we do a mid-session budget adjustment. So we'll be moving into that process at the new year. Well, thanks, Sam. We wish you well, and we appreciate you taking the time, even at home, to provide this presentation to us.
Yep, no problem, thank you.
And then if folks have questions, we'll cycle them through either the manager, assistant manager, or the clerk, and folks can get them to you. Thanks again. Next on the agenda, we have public hearings. We have emergency ordinance 2020-013. Madam Clerk, would you read the title into the record?
Emergency ordinance 2020-013 is temporarily adopting city council emergency regulations requiring facial coverings inside buildings open to the public in response to the rapid increase in COVID-19 cases within the city of Seward.
Can I get a motion and a second?
I move to adopt resolution ordinance 2020-013.
Seconded by Cease. Does administration have any comments, or, is there any comments?
The only comment, this is, I believe the other one was stopped in mid-October somewhere in there, and then it was never brought back before council to continue on what we were doing. So I believe the city attorney asked us we should probably bring something back before you, and we talked to the mayor, so we're bringing this back before you in some form. you can make the decision which way we need to go, stay what we've been doing, do something different. That's why it's brought back before you.
We'll open it up for public hearing and then we'll go back for questions. So we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Madam Clerk, are there any comments?
Madam Mayor, we have just a few citizen testimonies. The first one I'll read is from Jen Appel. My name is Jen Appel. I've been a resident of Seward for over 18 years. Regarding the mandating of masks, it is not the government's job to mandate personal health choices. You don't mandate that people eat healthy. You don't mandate that everyone take vitamin C and zinc. You don't mandate that everyone exercises for 20 minutes a day. Why not? Because you who sit on city council are not our doctors and do not know our personal health history and whether we are capable of doing those things. Yes, some people truly can't take vitamin C or exercise for 20 minutes a day. But by attempting to mandate masks for all, you are taking it upon yourselves to be our doctors, to think you know better than we do for ourselves, to make private health decisions for us and for our children that you do not have the authority to make. We still live in America and still have the right to make private health choices for ourselves. Let's actually take a look at where masks have been mandated for months. Anchorage. Has the mandate there caused cases to decrease or increase? I've seen an increase, a very steady increase. This is consistent with the data that is coming out showing that the majority of those who test positive for COVID actually are faithful wearers of masks. I don't even have time to get into the fact that these PCR tests are faulty in and of themselves, unable to distinguish between live and dead virus, and no good at actually diagnosing any kind of active and contagious case of COVID-19. But research it out and you'll see what I'm talking about. They were never designed to be a diagnostic tool for healthcare, let alone to base policy on, and yet that's what's happening. Here's the bottom line. Mandates and ordinances aren't about masks and viruses. They're about control. It doesn't matter what side you're on in regards to whether people should or shouldn't wear masks. We should all be against anything that causes the government to have any more control over our health and well-being than we do. Government keeps taking and taking more and more control. Where does it end? Sure, if you're for masks now, you may think this mandate is great. But what happens next time when it's not about masks? When they want to mandate something that you're against? You've already got the precedent. We must stand up. We must take a stand now. The freedoms that we are handing over to the government now will continue to spiral into more and more freedoms being yanked from us like a dog who slowly gets one link in his chain taken at a time until suddenly he can't move away from the house. He never noticed the slow loss of freedom. We don't want that for our future, for our children. Please, City Council, please think carefully about the decision you're making in trying to be doctor, lawmaker, parent, and judge for all of Seward. We the people stand up and say no more. No more do we want to be ruled by the few of you. We want to make our own health choices. Next is a comment from Lori Landstrom. Dear City Council members, as a part-time healthcare provider in Seward and citizen of the area, I wholeheartedly support Emergency Ordinance 2020-013. We have surpassed our positive case numbers from the summer and we have not slowed down yet. Widespread community spread is happening in Seward. We all know the reasons why masks are so important. We all know the importance of this issue. I won't elaborate except to say we need to continue to protect our essential workers, the ones who we all depend on, who must go to work, while some of us have the ability to safely work from home. Not to mention attempting to protect our wonderful but limited healthcare system in Seward. Our clinic and hospital workers are exhausted. Please help them out by passing this emergency ordinance. Please also consider other mandates, such as takeout dining only, closing down bars. Gatherings and indoor air are significantly contributing to the spread of COVID in Seward. Thank you for your time. Lori Landstrom, Physician Assistant. Next is comments from Virginia Allen. Dear Mayor, Terry, and Council, please enact emergency ordinance requiring facial coverings in public places. It is not important if people are skeptical about the efficacy of masks. After 8 months of research and data, it is now unequivocally known that face coverings are a very important tool in stopping the spread of COVID. Any skepticism at this point is just willful ignorance. It would be great if people took responsibility not only for their health, but the health of other people in our community. We all wish we didn't have to resort to measures like this. Had we all done the right thing to begin with, much of these types of measures would never have been needed. How much of an inconvenience is it, really, to wear a mask for the short time you are in a grocery store, the post office, or other public buildings? With numbers increasing rapidly and taxing our limited healthcare facilities, it is important to use every tool in the toolbox. Thank you for your service in these difficult times. Virginia Randazzo, Seward resident. And then my last one here is from Rhonda Hubbard. Honorable Mayor and Council members, I would like to ask that a mask wearing ordinance not be passed as proposed. While mask wearing comes recommended as a way to avoid spreading or receiving a potential viral load, it is not going to be the cure or prevent total spread of COVID now or in the future. Places around the country with mask mandates are still getting and will continue to contract COVID regardless. Many in Seward already appear to be respecting mask wearing recommendations, coupled with cooperating with social distancing measures. This is admirable. Therefore, suggest mask choice to be left to the people, businesses, and/or public entities on how they care to encourage or enforce mask wearing recommendations, while the city continue to promote CDC guidelines as they have been. COVID will continue and perhaps always will be with us in our lives, along with more colds and flu. As we accept this invariability, the community would be better served if council put its energies into assuring our citizens are equipped and can be provided proper treatments and remedies, coupled with better immune health education by our local and state health providers. Recent info from Alaska's Health Department has indicated 67% of Alaskans have comorbidities that are attractive in succumbing to COVID. This suggests a much larger underlying problem in coexisting with COVID than any mask-wearing mandate could. Furthermore, we should be accepting CDC guidelines and info on how children and youth are least impacted by COVID. Yet we have closed state and local facilities that can offer our youth places to be active and socially involved. Exercise and building lung capacity is also known as an important contributor to immune health. I encourage council to find safe and effective ways to allow our youth more open gym time and bringing kids together for outdoor activities. The benefits to our youth should far outweigh the risks, along with enhancing better mental health and providing parents more options for their youth. Without these considerations, we are only perpetuating more challenges to our community's general health and well-being. Thank you for taking my comments. Rhonda. And that is all.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With that, I'll close the public hearing. And then ordinances on the table. I'll go through for council comments to see if there's comments or proposed changes. Councilmember Casagrande, do you have comments?
I do. Just one moment. I'd like to make an amendment to add into the title facial coverings inside buildings open to the public, and add when 6 feet of distance between individuals cannot be maintained.
I'll second.
Thank you. And I'm just adding this, if I can just discuss my amendment. I'm just adding this because it reflects in section 2, but I just wanted to make sure that it was in the title. I personally feel on the same side as a couple people that have commented on government getting into mandating things, but as I read through the bulk of this mandate or ordinance, that it's really just common courtesy and an encouragement thereof. It's not saying that you always have to wear face coverings, just unless you can't maintain 6 feet of exceptions for people that have a hard time breathing or medical conditions, and does not mandate children under 4. So there were a lot of things, and I just wanted to make sure that that 6 feet was reflected in the title. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll speak to my second on that. I agree with that. I think it's already, as Councilmember Casagrande said, already included in one of the sections and is clearly another of the CDC recommendations. I'll check with council members on the phone first to see if they have any comments, and these comments are specific to the amendment being proposed. Councilmember DeMoss?
Yeah, I would also support the resolution as amended.
Thank you. Councilmember Osenga?
Yeah, I could support that. As
Okay.
amended.
Is there anyone on the dais that has further comments? Madam Clerk, could we have a vote on the proposed amendment?
Voting on the amendment to adjust the title, McClure,
Yes.
Osenga,
Yes.
Cease,
Yes.
Baclan,
Yes.
Casagrande,
Yes.
Demas,
Yes.
and Mayor Terry.
Yes.
That amendment is approved.
Great. I'll go back to the phone and see if Councilmember Osenga, do you have comments on the ordinance?
No, just that I'm supportive of it.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Demas?
I'm supportive of it, and I would also like to say that I think it makes it a lot easier for businesses to try and have customers and staff wear masks if it is a city mandate, and I just believe that we all need to be on the same team with this right now, so that's why I'm going to be supporting it.
Thank you. I'll look to the dais. Thank you. I'll look to the dais. Councilmember Cease, do you have any comments?
No, I support it like it is.
Vice Mayor Baclan, do you have any comments?
No.
No. Councilmember McClure?
Well, I do. I'm one of the people that feels like, as some, that it's really hard to mandate things for people. On the one hand, we already have a resolution in place, I believe, that where we're subscribing to the CDC guidelines as put forth by the Kenai Peninsula Borough. So we're already pretty much doing this. The only thing that's different is now we're making it officially just ours, I guess. I've gone back and forth on this a lot. Council Member Demas's comment is a very good one, that this will make it easier for the businesses to say you should wear a mask if the city council has said that. It's only going to be for 30 days. We're going to give it a shot. So with all that being said, I'll go ahead and vote for this, but I gave it considerable back and forth thought for quite a while. So.
Yeah, I mean, I just have a couple comments because I'm in agreement with folks that maybe have some trepidation about enacting something like this. I think that businesses and people are trying to be respectful. But, you know, clearly we're in a crisis. Our kids have not been in school for quite a while. The borough's looking at, you know, school again on December 4th, and with Seward's numbers, I don't think we'll be back in session. I mean, sports have been delayed. I think we need to just recognize that we are in, if not a health crisis, we're in an economic crisis and, you know, crisis for those families. I am a little surprised that we didn't have any comments from our healthcare providers at the meeting, but I have been speaking to them, you know, weekly, and this is, you know, as someone noted, we are not doctors, you know, we're not medical professionals, so the only things we have to go by are CDC recommendations and what our local healthcare providers are telling us. This is only for 30 days. You know, if this turns around, we could always have something come back before us to take it out prior to that time. And I also think that this is the least of any mandate that we can put in place. I do not want to see our businesses shut down. I don't want to see our kids staying at home any longer than they need to. So I'm hoping that people will take this under advisement, but also think about the other mandates that we could have put in place and try to do those. I've seen a lot of jokes on Facebook about having large Thanksgiving parties, and I hope that you remember that when kids still aren't in school in January, because we have lots of cases. Administration?
Madam Mayor, I just want to make note in section 4, it states Wednesday, November 23rd. Wednesday is actually the 25th.
Okay.
So I guess just discussion whether it's the intention to go into effect today on Monday the 23rd or Wednesday the 25th, and I apologize.
No, that's a good catch. So I'll go ahead and make the amendment to change that to Wednesday, November 25th.
Second it?
And I don't know that we even need discussion. I will say that the reason why we've done that delay in dates in the past is so that enough notice can go out. You know, instead of having it be immediately available, let's give our businesses time to make those changes. Is there any discussion on the phone of that date change? I think it's pretty innocuous. Okay, Madam Clerk, let's call for a vote.
Voting on the amendment to fix the effective date to Wednesday, November 25th at midnight. Osenga?
Yes.
McClure?
Yes.
Casagranda?
Yes.
Demas?
Yes.
Cease?
Yes.
Buckland?
Yes.
Mayor Terry?
Yes.
That amendment is approved.
Thank you. So I'm just gonna do, we'll go ahead and call for the vote. If folks have more comments, I'll just holler out. But other than that, we'll have the clerk call for the vote, please.
Voting on the enactment of emergency ordinance 2020-013 as amended. McClure?
Yes.
Casagranda?
Yes.
Demas?
Yes.
Cease?
Yes.
Osenga?
Yes.
Buckland?
Yes.
Mayor Terry?
Yes.
That ordinance has been enacted.
Thank you. Next is unfinished business items, resolution 2020-083. Madam Clerk, if you could read the title into the record.
Resolution 2020-083 is authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Harmon Construction to replace the retaining wall at the Little League Field at 4th Avenue and C Street in the amount of $45,850 and appropriating funds. This item was postponed from November 9th, 2020.
So this item is already on the table, but I'm going to go ahead and make a motion before administration gives us their report to adopt substitute resolution 2020-083, and I'll look for a second.
I second it.
Okay, thank you. So Madam Clerk, let's just call for a vote on the substitute resolution. Unless there's comments, folks can holler them out.
Adopting the substitute resolution, Demas?
Yes.
Cease?
Yes.
McClure?
Yes.
Osenga?
Yes.
Buckland?
Yes.
Casagranda?
Yes.
And Mayor Terry?
Yes.
Your substitute resolution is on the floor.
So I'll turn it over to administration.
Madam Mayor, so they had this brought to you before and it was postponed because it was out to bid at the time and it didn't have time for closure, so the bid was closed and Harmon Construction was the bid winner, so that's why we brought it back before you at this time. And if, tell her to be on the phone if you have any questions about the bid.
Would you like me to call the Parks and Rec Director?
Does anyone here have any questions? Councilmember Osenga, do you have any questions for the Parks and Rec Director? Should we get him on the phone?
I do not.
Councilmember Demas?
No, I don't.
Councilmember Casagrande?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments for administration? I'll look to the dais first. Councilmember Cease, Vice Mayor Buckland, Councilmember Demas,
No.
Councilmember Casagrande,
No.
Councilmember Osenga.
No.
Okay, thank you. I just have a question. And so this will start in the spring. You know that? Okay. Yeah. Thank you. So I guess we're looking for a vote, please, Madam Clerk.
Voting on the approval of the substitute version, or rather, the resolution 2020-083, you've already adopted the substitute. Casagranda?
Yes.
Buckland?
Yes.
McClure?
Yes.
Osenga?
Yes.
Cease?
Yes.
Demas?
Yes.
Mayor Terry.
Yes.
That resolution is approved.
And we do not have to go back to the original resolution, is
No,
that?
ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is Resolution 2020-086. Madam Clerk, I'll have you read that title into the record.
Resolution 2020-086 is revising municipal camping fees. This item was postponed from October 26, 2020. And council, I'll just point out, there's a laydown before you that was provided by the Parks and Rec Director.
So again, this, just for council's information, this item is already on the table. So we don't need a motion in a second, but I will turn to administration for comments, please.
Madam Mayor, so you asked the Parks Director to come back with some different numbers for you, and him working with Sam, the Finance Director, they came up, Acting Finance Director, they came up with some prices for you. And he is available by phone if you had any different more questions.
Yeah, this laydown was very helpful, thank you. We have a couple options before us, and we also have the resolution on the table. So I guess I'll call for comments first, or do you folks want to throw out a motion at all? Vice Mayor?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt camping alternative fee schedule number 2.
I'll second it.
Okay, so folks on the phone, right now we have an amendment on the table that's changing the fee schedule that's outlined in section 1 to more closely, or to reflect the alternative fee schedule number 2 from the laydown. So I'll let you speak to that.
So I think that I really, first of all, I'd like to say thank you to Tyler for getting us 2 different options. I think both of them were great. I do like the camping alternative number 2. The premium goes up to $65, which we were looking at $70, so I feel that it was a little more, or the last one we did talk about $60, up to $70. And so the partial hookup and the premium, I think, would not affect, if we went with any raise at all in the prices, it's not affecting the lower tier of camper, like the non-hookup or the tent campers. So it would be charging those who have, hooking up to utilities, having better spots, wanting to have the better spots and paying for that, I think is a positive thing, as well as keeping that lower tier for the value camper that is looking for other options in the city.
So I do have actually one thing that I should have brought up. So I believe 2 council members on the phone. I just want to check in with you and make sure you don't want to declare a conflict of interest, because you potentially discussed that in the past.
So this is Councilmember Casagranda, and after attorney presentation of the might, and there was it might, and there was another word, likely. It's a might for me, so I do not think that this is a conflict of interest.
Okay, I'll go.
Do you know what I'm referring to?
Yeah, so for folks that weren't here before, when they talked about conflict of interest, you're exactly right when they looked at that, if there was going to be a likely or a might. So you're declaring that you do not, you at least want to bring it to the table that there could be a potential, but you do not have a conflict of interest?
Correct.
Okay, I'm happy to.
For what, a potential, can you describe what the?
Oh yeah, so you were gone for the work session, just because she's in the lodging profession.
Okay.
Okay, I'll go ahead and rule that you do not have a conflict of interest, but I could be overruled if there's any comments. Okay. Councilmember, I didn't mean to look at you, sir. Councilmember DeMoss, did you? Sorry, I was staring at a councilmember by accident. Councilmember DeMoss, did you have anything you'd like to say?
I guess my sentiment is along the lines of Councilmember Casagranda, and I think that it could honestly play either way with my personal interest in having lodging and also having a business. So I could benefit from increased revenue in the campgrounds and I could also benefit from decreased revenue in the campground. Therefore, I don't believe that I have a conflict of interest, and I don't think that I ever thought I did, honestly.
Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and rule that you don't have a conflict of interest unless anyone wants to overrule me. Okay, now let's get back to the business at hand. We're looking on, Vice Mayor Baclan just made comments on his amendment to the alternative fee schedule number 2. I'll call out to see if there's comments on the phone. Councilmember Osenga, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I do. The only thing that I can think here is I would really want to caution about jumping the fee so much in 1 year. You're talking about basically a $10 increase from 10 to 20, a $20 increase from Myrtle Beach Drive, which is now 20 to 40. Partial hookup, I could see going up to 55, but it just seems like I don't really want to. I just don't want to drop or raise it up too fast in 1 year. I mean, we could always raise it up to 1, and then look at the fee schedule again in a year and see how it goes. We just really want to be cautious about the amount we're trying to raise these up in 1 year.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Councilmember Demas, did you have comments?
I do. I would say that I support the alternative fee schedule number 2. I do think that we have been undercharging for so long that we are unfortunately in the position now where we have to make a larger increase at once. And I do think that just making that one change rather than doing it consecutively a few summers even in a row might make people think that we're continuing to raise these fees every summer instead of just being the one large jump. We can justify that by saying we haven't done it for a long time, and then we can just ride that out. So that's why I would be supportive of the fee schedule number 2.
Thank you. Councilmember Casagrande?
So I have done some outreach to other local campground hosts, and the average tent camping for other spots in town is $30 a night. One of the feedbacks that I received was if they do any lower, they receive more problems and more headache for having lower fees, and they actually attract a more dependable clientele with higher fees. So I know on one hand we want to be mindful of increasing, but on the other hand, there's a lot of advantages other than just revenue to increasing as well. So with that said, I could definitely accept the rate fee number 2 that is in front of us, but I would definitely want to increase next year and the year after that until we are more caught up with a high-end campground for the Kenai Peninsula. This rate thing that's before us, number 2, doesn't even get us to the average of the surrounding areas presented in our packet. Thanks.
Okay, I'll go back to our dais. Councilmember Cease, do you have any comments?
No, I just feel that the second alternative would be better. Like, I think that the people that come down here, a lot of them come because it is so cheap, but they will still come because of sewer. And I think that we should have it up to the number 2.
Thank you. Councilmember McClung?
Well, I think I might have been convinced. I was, if you recall it before, I felt that this was too high and I wanted to go in a gradual way, but the comment made that if we just keep raising it every year, that's going to be a detriment, I think, too. So, and also, I mean, if people stop coming because of this, which I doubt, we can always change it back. So I'll support the amendment.
And then, do you have any further comments? I'll just say I also have convinced to be in support of this, but I would like to just have administration here, if we look like there's issues with bookings, let's take a look at our rates again. If it could just be passed on to Tyler, I think it's easier to go down than go up. Call for a vote?
Can I clarify one thing with council, please, Madam Mayor? With the schedule number 2 is addressing summer rates only, and you're not, this would not impact winter rates.
Right.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Voting on the amendment to adopt fee schedule number 2, Osenga,
No.
McClure,
Yes.
Casagranda,
Yes.
Demas,
Yes.
Cease,
Yes.
Baclan,
Yes.
and Mayor Terry.
Yes.
That amendment is approved.
Okay, we're back to the resolution. I'll check for comments on the resolution as a whole. Councilmember Casagrande?
Yes, so I apologize, I cannot see the rate number 2, but Osenga did point it out to me. So by passing what is on the table, can you just clarify for the clerk that we would be passing the winter rate of $25 for partial hookup and $15 for dry RV?
Yes, that's what's currently in the resolution.
Okay, so I'd like to make an amendment for the winter rate of the partial hookup to reflect the summer rate of the partial hookup.
So you're amending the $25 winter rate up to $55 to be consistent with the summer rate for partial hookup?
Correct.
Is there a second?
I'll second it for discussion.
I'll let you speak to that, Councilmember Casagrande.
I'm just speaking in regards to, I know there's gotta be extra cost, and I know that this was covered in the work session, and I don't know how deeply, I think it was something that administration was gonna get back to us. But, they are expensive to run an electric heater. I think I did a test in my house one day, and it averaged about $20 a day to turn on a space heater. And then the cost to keep the water lines running, I don't know if there's extra maintenance. And then we're also doing all the plowing for a limited amount of RVs. And I just can't see how $25 a day can even begin to cover costs. And so at $25 a day, I question why it would even be open.
Okay, Councilmember Osenga, do you have any comments to the amendment?
Yeah, I would just like to ask administration just what it is that we're supplying in the winter.
Do we need to get, let's get Tyler on the phone, please.
Okay. Hello?
Hello?
Hi, Tyler. It's Brenda. You're with City Council, and they have questions about the camping fee.
So the question on the table right now is we're discussing an amendment to raise the winter rate for the partial hookup from $25 to $55. And Councilmember Osenga asked what services are provided in the campgrounds during the winter time.
So we still have utility hookups, so electric. There is no water service during the winter time. We have portable latrines, which cost a couple $100 a month to maintain and have a contractor to come out and service. Other than that, we do incidental snow clearing in some of those entranceways to the campground and along Resurrection Campground, which also benefits people who are trying to access the waterfront park. Those are the primary services we provide during the winter.
Thank you. Councilmember Osenga, do you have a follow-up question?
No, that pretty much answered it, thank you.
Okay. I have Vice Mayor Baclan raising his hand, so I'll go to you for comments.
Actually, I'm gonna ask for clarification. Do you want me to wait and ask?
No, you can go ahead.
I just wanted to I don't have a question for Tyler, so I didn't
That's
want.
fine, no, but we'll
Okay.
just keep Tyler on the phone.
Okay. So I just wanted to speak one to Councilmember Casagrande's proposal. If we look at the proposed winter rate hike, if we adopted that instead of the same as summer, we're looking at partial hookup at $25 a day. That's water, electric, and that's $750 a month. I feel that that's a lot of money for somebody who's just parking their RV, paying for electric and water.
No water in the winter.
Yeah, that's fine.
It says water, electric. Okay,
Yeah, but-
so
yeah.
there's no water, but so just for electric, I think that that's fair. I don't know how this would go, but I'd like to. I'll let your amendment go first.
Okay, we'll see if Councilmember Demas, did you have any comments?
At this time, no, I don't.
Okay, so let's call for a vote on that amendment, and that's
Madam
moving.
Mayor,
Oh, yeah.
I do have a question for Tyler, if I may.
Yes, please, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So does the campground provide Wi-Fi to the winter rentals? And is that an additional bill to extend over to the campground? And also, can you, by past readings of the electric, can you give us an idea of how people that are lodging in the RV hookups in the winter, how they're heating themselves, if they're heating themselves by starting their RVs with like internal heat, or if they're using electrical heat?
Were you able to hear those questions?
Yes, I'm sorry, I missed a little bit of the first question.
So, there's two questions. The first is, and you can probably hear me because I'm such a loud talker, but the first is there Wi-Fi provided to those camping spots during the winter, and is that an extra cost?
We do offer Wi-Fi year-round, and it's not an extra cost, it's open free Wi-Fi it's not a cost to the user, if that's what the intent of the question was.
So, and whether the campgrounds were open or not, you would keep that going throughout the year, or?
Correct, because it's such a modest, minimal cost, and it's really, yeah.
And then Councilmember Casagrande had a second question. Were you able to hear that?
Yes, I don't have any firsthand data on what heat sources campers are using. We just look at the overall utility electric consumption rate. So, unfortunately, I apologize I don't have that data and that information available in front of me right now.
Are you able to compare the revenue and expenses? Are your expenses covered during the winter months, do you know?
Yes, last time I checked, we are above break even for our winter expenses.
Okay, Vice Mayor Buckland.
I know from a previous conversation a while ago, before I was on council, they talked about the reason why they don't shut the Wi-Fi down is it's more expensive to turn it off and turn it back on again. So if they were to stop the service and turn it back on, it was going to cost more than it was to just leave it on for the winter. I'm not in favor of the amendment.
I'll look, Councilmember Osinga, and did you have any final comments specific to this amendment?
No, I do not, thank you.
Councilmember Casagrande?
Yeah, I'll just see where the support goes, but basically if I was going to heat my house with electric heat, I'd pay about a minimum of $400 a month. My Wi-Fi though would be probably at a minimum of $65 a month, and that would be for really slow, painstakingly slow Wi-Fi. My water would be $45 a month, and my sewer would be $67 a month. So what I hear is I'm better off to go get an RV and move down to the campground for the winter and rent my house out.
Okay, Councilmember Demas, I'll let you speak. Do you have any further comments?
I guess my only comment is, and I really could be swayed either way on raising the winter rates, because of a lot of the issues that Councilmember Casagrande just brought up, but also how much business are we really taking in the winter, and if those expenses are being covered, then our money really lies in the summer. That's the majority of our income, and so to squeeze it out of, maybe a few people in the winter, I'm not sure it's really worth it, and I do like the idea of making Seward more appealable to in-state travelers in the winter. So I would probably sway toward leaving the winter rates where they are right now.
Okay, Vice Mayor Buckland? Okay, we'll go ahead, thank you all, we'll go ahead and call for a vote.
Voting on the amendment to change winter rates to $55. Casagrande?
Yes.
Buckland?
No.
McClure?
No.
Osenga?
No.
Cease?
No.
Demas?
No.
Mayor Terry?
No.
That amendment has failed.
Okay, are there any further amendments or comments, Councilmember Cease?
Well, maybe we wouldn't have to raise that to $55 like that, but at least $25 I don't think is enough, especially if they are using our electricity.
Councilmember, or Vice Mayor Buckland?
I'd like to make a motion to increase the winter rates on the proposed Seward nightly camping fees. As recommendation 1, to raise the winter rates to $25 and $15.
Say that again?
It's on this page 142. That was proposed by Parks and Rec, 25 and 15.
That's what we have
That's what's on
on page
And that-
139.
Yeah.
No, that's a $5 increase. And a $10 increase. A 5 and a 10. Current,
On this, it goes up to 25 and 15, on page 139.
The resolution.
oh, I'm looking at the old
Yeah,
resolution.
yeah, you're looking at the,
Right.
so this is.
Okay, never
so I
mind.
think
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine, you're fine. So I'll look for final,
Do I make a motion? Should I have made a motion?
if you wanted to.
Yeah, I do. I want to make a motion to raise that to $35 or $40 a night.
Which you have to pick.
40.
Okay, 40. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Is it for the same reasons? Councilmember Cease,
Yes.
I'll let you speak to your,
Well, I think that especially if they're going to come down here, they probably don't have, they're usually electric. If they're hooked up to electric, they won't use their own propane. And I think that if we have to pay so much for electricity, I think they should have to pay too for using our meters.
okay, Vice Mayor Buckland.
I still do think they're paying a lot of money to live down there. If you look at it, even just at $25 a night just for electricity, $750 a month. They do not have water, they do not have sewer, they have to walk to the bathroom or use the bathroom in their RV, move their RV every 14 days, go dump it, pay for the dump, dump the RV. It's still $700. I think that is fair, and we're squeezing out, and that would be squeezing out a population that is probably disadvantaged already because they are living in an RV on a campground in the middle of the winter. I'd rather get our revenue from the summer, where that money really does matter, from the people who can afford it, rather than squeezing it from the people who are living the hardest at the hardest time for whatever reason.
Okay, I'll check on the line. Councilmember Casagrande, this is specific to the amendment, winter partial hookup from 25 to 40. Do you have any comments?
No comment.
Thank you. Councilmember Osenga?
I would just say that it also, I would agree with Vice Mayor Buckland, that's it's a little bit much. And if I remember correctly, or I heard Tyler right, we're breaking even over the summer, over the week and month, so I don't see that this is necessary.
Councilmember Demas?
No comment.
Okay. Madam Clerk, could you call for a vote, please?
Voting on the amendment to raise winter rates to $40. Cease,
Yes.
Casagranda,
Yes.
Bachman,
No.
Demas,
No.
McClure,
No.
Osenga,
No.
Mayor Terry.
No.
That amendment has failed.
Okay, last blush. Okay, let's call for a vote on the resolution on a whole, please, Madam Clerk.
Voting on the resolution 20-086 as amended, McClure,
Yes.
Osenga,
Yes.
Cease,
Yes.
Bachman,
Yes.
Casagranda,
Yes.
Demas,
Yes.
and Mayor Terry.
Yes.
That resolution is approved.
Thank you. Thank you, Tyler. Thanks for being available by phone. We appreciate your help.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is 9B, other new business items. 5, discuss recruiting a permanent city manager and approve updates to GovHR recruitment documents. At the last meeting, we set just a committee to review the documents. We had very small changes. I mean, obviously GovHR does this for their living. We just had a few changes that we wanted to at least bring back to council. I know they're gonna have to update the timeline. You know, I will say there's one thing that was, you know, maybe more of a substantial change than just language is our thoughts with advertising the starting salary. Previously, we advertised the salary as $125,000, and then we got the city manager and negotiated up to $140,000. Our thoughts were that we should put a higher salary in there, especially if we think we're going to negotiate up, because then we're going to get people that might be better qualified or more interested at the higher salary. So, you know, 140 might not be the number, but our thoughts were, you know, 125 was maybe too low, and if we advertise what we are potentially going to pay someone, then we'll just get a better pool of applicants. Councilmember McClure.
That was the one thing that I flagged on this. I was part of the negotiating committee with the previous city manager, and the 140 was with the proviso that he did not have severance. And that was why it was that high. He chose to have a higher salary rather than have a severance package. So that was, I mean, it wasn't that, you know, there's a big difference, because if we had put in the severance package, the salary would have been lower. So just so you know.
So what would be, do you have any suggestions?
I don't really, but I just wanted to point out that that wasn't, you know, the original plan, and the negotiation didn't go to 140,000 plus severance package. It was because he did not have one, and that was his choice. So,
Councilmember Osenga?
I was going to just, sorry, thank you. Is the salary range something that GovHR would have an idea of what would be a recommendation, I guess, is what I'm looking for?
That's a great comment. So do you think we could go to GovHR and get a recommendation?
Administration is not involved in this process.
Oh, you guys aren't.
Just remember that.
Okay.
That's a conflict of
So,
interest.
I know that the clerk spoke to GovHR today. And so maybe you can back up and talk about the progress to date?
I can ask them for a recommended salary, but I think that they're probably gonna defer to council because you have the budget and you'll make that decision. They are ready to get moving on this as soon as we provide the feedback after council approves it tonight, and they'll adjust the schedule accordingly. It'll probably push out 2 to 3 weeks out from the delay that we've had so far.
Any comments on the salary? I know we have 140 budgeted. I mean, we could say 130, 135. I'm just thinking if we think as a council we're going to negotiate up, we should maybe get that number out there to get better applicants. So, Councilmember Osenga, the city clerk is going to ask them for a recommendation. Outside of that, did you have a recommendation, sir?
No, I didn't. I was just thinking that maybe because they might deal with other areas hiring city managers, they might have an idea of a going rate. Not based on what we're budgeting for, but just an idea of what I was looking for.
Okay.
But other than that, no, I don't have any comments or even an idea of a raise.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna go to the phone first, then I'll come back to you. Councilmember DeMoss?
I like the idea of trying to find out what the average is for this profession and getting some information there, but also we need to move forward in a timely manner. So I guess those are my only comments. I don't know what the number should be.
Councilmember Casagrande?
I like the numbers where they're at, and, you know, if we reach out to HR Gov and we're way off, then maybe we can take it back for consideration, but I think we're probably spot on. And when we were in our committee meetings, the reason that Mayor Terry already explained this, but basically instead of going low and being ready to negotiate higher, we just feel like we can get a larger pool of candidates by just going out with the number that we already have budgeted for.
Thank you. Vice Mayor McClellan?
So, I like what Councilmember Osenga said, having the salary range, but maybe if we just agree on a set salary range and a set number to go out,
Yeah.
that way we don't have to have any more delays.
Yeah, that would be my feeling. What if we just raise it a little bit and we start at 130 and see if GovHR thinks that we're in the ballpark with that? Would that be amenable to folks on the phone? I'll start with Councilmember Osenga. So just to clarify, we will ask them, but just to have a number in place to move forward so we don't have any other delays, would you be comfortable with 130?
Yes, that sounds really good. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember DeMoss?
Yeah, I think that sounds good.
Councilmember Casagrande, I know you would even be interested in higher, but just trying to get a number out there to start moving forward. Would 130 work for you?
Sure.
Okay. Any arguments on the dais? Okay, that sounds good. And then I don't think are there any other comments on we just made a few changes to some of the language. Are there any comments on that? Very small.
Madam Mayor, GovHR would like your feedback and approval on the ad source list that they are providing on page 169. They want to know if you have any other requests to include.
Yeah, no, that we didn't have any comments on that, so that works great.
That's good.
Okay, so I'll just check in, and so Madam Clerk, they'll get us the updated, so you feel like you have enough direction and instruction to just tell them to start moving forward with the clarification on the salary, and then anything else you need from us at this time?
Nope, GovHR will gather all the applications, and they'll do the background check and the vetting of Google searches and whatnot, and come up with a shorter list. 5 to 10 candidates is what they're proposing to present to council for consideration.
Okay, fantastic, thank you. Any last comments for the good of the order, Osenga?
Nope, I'm good, thank you.
DeMoss?
No.
Grande?
No problem.
And then none from the dais? Okay, next on the agenda is discuss the wage study, and I'll turn this over to administration.
Madam Mayor, there was some questions from Councilmember Osenga after the prior work session. Excellent question regarding the benefit impact. That's provided in your packet this evening. So as you can see, if council were to approve proceeding forward, we would be looking at a net $309,000 roughly impact. The only one thing I just want to make note of is we did get some updated liability insurance numbers back from AMLJIA, and our premium's going to go down a little bit, so that number is probably going to be about $305,000 to $307,000 if these numbers were implemented. I guess the only other two things, one would be just to make note of the way that this is going to proceed is that at this point administration needs direction from council. Nothing's formally going to be adopted tonight, but we just need direction from this body on how you would like us to proceed. The next step in the process would be to continue to meet with SPEA in order to negotiate. And I guess on that note, I also just want to make sure council's aware that our collective bargaining agreement with the union is going to be up on December 31st, 2021. So irregardless of whether this is adopted or not, we just to make you cognizant of the fact that we will be renegotiating a whole new collective bargaining agreement with the union in less than next year. So that's kind of, I guess, where we stand from here. Hopefully this body is able to provide us just clarification on how you would like us to proceed. And I know there is some feedback that some of the folks with SPEA have brought forth tonight. Some additional documentation that's been provided to you, especially there was some discussion about the water, wastewater positions, etc. But hopefully that's kind of the takeaway, is your guidance on how you would like us to proceed from here on out.
So, and just to clarify, when you say guidance, you're looking at, do you proceed with negotiating 50th percentile, 65th percentile over 3 years? What
You know, there's
what are some of the options?
Yeah, so there's a variety of options on the table. I guess just to put it out there, if you look at both the dollar amount to implement as well as the complexity and some of the kind of tertiary issues that arise if we don't implement right away, there's some, I'm not even going to call them housekeeping issues, there's some advantages to not going with a tiered approach, because you create instances where a brand new employee would then make less than a tenured employee does. And so there's a host of issues of that sort. If this body has a preference to maybe approve, but perhaps delay until a later date in order to save some costs, that's probably a more beneficial way to go about that. But again, we got a ton of options on the table. The option that you have in front of you with the $307,000 assumes that we put this into place on January 1st, 2021 as is. Again, that's going to be subject to negotiation with the union as we move forward.
Vice Mayor Buckland.
Just a question. I don't know how this works, because would this come in form as a resolution, as a total amount, or does it go through everything that everyone gets?
Yeah, that's
a great question.
I'll double check with Brooks. My understanding, and again, I'll make note of that and get back to you guys in the next couple days, is that it would come together as a comprehensive list, assuming, and I think in your packet you've got the proposed classification plan, so you would have that inside of a resolution, is my understanding of how it would be adopted.
Vice Mayor.
So my only question to that is, how do you address individual concerns?
Can you clarify?
So that's what I'm saying. So is it, position X, say somebody said wastewater, right? Wastewater says, we don't agree with this still, we don't agree with what happened and how this is going. We still believe that we deserve this much money, right? So is that negotiations that come, because we're setting the budget for a position, and then from there, the union negotiates wages, right?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to understand how this process works.
Councilmember Buckland, that's a great question. I can get you the specifics. The two in general, there's two things. So when it comes to negotiation with the union, that will be based off of job class and grade. With respect to like a more specific example, so if I was a wastewater operator and I disputed whether I belonged in that class, there's a mandatory dispute process that's built into the collective bargaining agreement, and I apologize, I should have this information to outline it to you. I can get you the verbiage and the structure on how that dispute process rolls out, but that's already built into our union contract and how those are handled.
So I'll so I'm just gonna throw something out there so we have something to debate. So what is council's feeling about looking at the 50th percentile? And I'll start with folks on the phone. Councilmember Casagrande?
Can you elaborate what, I'm sorry, I'm kind of lost, what 50 percentile is? Would that be of the $309,000,
No.
taking half of that?
No, so the 50th percentile is essentially when GovHR went out and surveyed the comparable municipalities that we talked about during the work session. That 50th percentile would bring us up to the mean average of all the comparable municipalities that would be good comparables for the city of Seward. So like in the table, you're looking at the proposed classification plan. Just as an example, so like for grade 7, the bottom of the 50th percentile for that grade would be $54,566, and the top of the 65th percentile would be $79.28.
As opposed to, and these aren't, so 176, somehow my pages lost their numbers, but so I'm looking at the Seward Comprehensive Table, Table 2. So you can look at the start and the stop of the 50th and the 65th percentile comparisons. So, in our current economic situation, I'm not comfortable looking at 65% for the negotiations, but I do think our city employees need to have this talked about and reviewed, so I'm throwing out there that we should start negotiating at the 50th percentile. So, Councilmember DeMoss, did you have any comments?
I think that I would agree with the 50 percentile, from what I understand.
Councilmember Osenga?
Yeah, I could agree with the 50 percentile as a starting point, yep.
And then, so talk to me again, because we saw a lot of information about the 3-year implementation, but you're saying that there's kind of potentially issues with that?
Yeah, so just as an example, if we were to not implement the full 217-142, and I apologize, I don't have the year 1, 2, 3 right at my fingertips, but just as an example, one of the issues that was brought up both by GovHR and by SPEA was, let's say I'm a 10-year employee and I'm below that 50th. So this would only affect, I believe, 8 individual employees in the organization where they would be affected by it, but you would get into a situation where a brand new employee would come in at a higher rate of pay than a tenured employee.
Yeah,
so
that
that's
doesn't make...
I apologize if I made it sound like that was off the table. It's certainly something that's available. It's just we're going to need to work through those types of issues. And so if the concern was saving on cost, this body could look at approving at the full amount, but maybe delaying the actual implementation date back from January 1st. I hope that makes sense.
So you're saying we could approve the change, but start it like June 1 and be 6, like we could approve it this year and have the change start at June 1, and then that would just, so that would be half of this 302 then, potentially.
Whatever this body decides is how you want to move forward.
Because it would half the wage estimate and half the benefit estimate, potentially. Or a quarter, it could be
Yeah.
How about April?
April 1. So, and this is all predicated on you're going to go and negotiate from the union. So again, to outline, we're going to give you some general ideas. You're going to take it to that union, then you have to come back to us with final.
Correct.
So, one of the comments I have is we don't even know what our losses were last year. We don't know what our final revenue was last year. So we're going into this a little blind with the staggering of the timing.
Right.
So I guess we just had Councilmember McClure suggest that we approve and direct you to move forward with negotiating potentially the 50th percentile with a start implementation date of April 1. So based on that, I'll just holler out to folks on the phone. Casa Grande, do you have any comments to that?
If that's just a starting point and we're not tying ourselves into anything, I think that's fine by me. I totally 100% agree. We don't even know what our numbers are for this year. So it's kind of hard to say that we're going to spend more money if we don't know how much money we've lost. But I can definitely take that as a starting point.
Okay. Councilmember Osenga?
I can agree with Councilmember Casagrande's comments. I think it's a great starting spot, and again, we really don't know how much we've lost, so I can agree with that.
Okay. Councilmember Demas?
I also agree with, we just don't know what our numbers are, so it's hard to make those big decisions. I like April 1st, opposed to a later date. And I also know that it's hard to spend money right now, but we have to take care of our employees who are taking care of us. So I definitely support moving forward with this in a timely manner. And I think that's a good starting point.
Thank you. Councilmember Cease, do you have any comments?
No, I agree with Trustee Rhonda.
Okay, Councilmember McClure? Vice Mayor Buckland? The only comment I have is if we have non-essential employees with vacancies, like I'm not talking jail, I'm not talking police officers, I think we just need to really take a hard look at those positions. Again, I think that we need to adequately pay our current employees, and we really need to think about the workload because I'm nervous about our losses, and I don't know that our economy is going to rebound in 1 year. So that's my only comment. So do you guys have enough direction at this time? Great.
Yes, ma'am.
Yay. Thank you.
Yay.
Next is reschedule the city council tour with department heads. Thank you for being flexible about that with everything going on with COVID. What are your thoughts?
So we're thinking maybe sometime in January, when people are off. We don't, it'd be nice to do it all in one day, but if somebody's on a trip or whatever, we can make arrangements to do it another day, for a couple here, a couple there. Like I said, it'd be nice to get them done in one day though.
How about bring it back to the table with suggestion of dates at that first meeting in January, and then we can sign up during that meeting? Does that sound good?
Absolutely.
And then you can work with your department heads on when they're available?
Correct.
Okay. Informational items and reports, we don't have this in the packet, October 2020 City and Providence financials. I'm sure they're out there somewhere, but next meeting. Council comments, citizen comments to the clerk?
Yes, we have one person to call for the second citizen comment period, and that is Linda Paquette.
Hello.
Hi, Linda, you're with council, and you have 5 minutes for citizen comments.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Good evening again, Mayor, City Council members, administration, members of the public. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you again. A little bit more about the lagoon. The biozones that were installed in the Low Point Lagoon after the dredge were initially designed for warm water, shallow depth, like 5 to 10 foot deep lagoons. So using them in a 30-foot deep lagoon, cold water lagoon, is an entirely different application. And it could very well explain why there have been persistent odor issues since the lagoon got restored after the dredge. So the lagoon never required sodium nitrate to treat smells until it went anaerobic. So there should be no need to treat the lagoon for odors now, yet the lagoon continues, as we know, to Mr. Lehman noticed that the lagoon's footprint is too small for summer loads, and that was many years ago. So I know that several of the current council members were on council when those studies got presented to council. You folks know those documents existed, and I'm very offended by your public works director's accusations that I don't know what I speak about, and that the reports I continually refer to never existed. So I would like to implore you to begin the process also of expanding your wastewater facilities. Not only was this also already recommended by that consultant, but you're continuing to build new housing. So it would be best if you were proactive on this and not reactive as you've been in the past. So thank you for considering these comments. In closing, I just want to sort of speak to the public and thank you for passing the mask ordinance, and say that I'm really rather shocked at the number of folks who support their right to infect other people, because that's what the argument is. The wearing of masks is to prevent the wearers, if they're shedding, from infecting other people. Your mask protects me from you if you're sick. My mask protects you from me if I'm sick. No one has the right to go around infecting other people, unknowingly or not. There's nothing in the Constitution that protects your right to make other people sick. There is no government overreach here. It's a global health emergency, and people need to stop making it political. Think about the health workers. You've got them right here in this town. Maybe they didn't comment because they're tired, right? People's careless actions stress real people who have to wear masks to work. They have to wear full PPE. And do you think they want to? No. But they have to try to stay alive and not take it home to their families. So in some places where they're getting sick now, they're being told to put on double PPE and show back up to work, because there's no one else to run the ventilators or care for the extremely sick. And if they can't do that, if they can't work, then what good are the 10 ventilators at the hospital if there's no one to run them? I'm not trying to be scary, but this overload is what's happening around the country. And to a certain extent, right here in Alaska. Do you know where it's not happening? In New Zealand, in countries like Thailand, where mask wearing is a standard practice, and where people don't claim that they have a right to infect other people. So for the love of God, wearing a mask is a small inconvenience to show you care about your neighbors and the community. Because that's what I think every time I put on a mask, is God forbid I should have it and be giving it to somebody else. I would never forgive myself. I was worried coming home after sitting through that council meeting on Monday when we found out that there was a potential there. I would find it very difficult to forgive myself if I brought it home and gave it to my husband and something happened to him. So, you know, how many people is it? How wide is the circle? It's okay to give it to one person, but not okay to give it to 2, or not okay to give it to 10. Because that's what we're talking about when you argue anti-mask. You're asserting your right to make other people sick. So I beg everyone, stop thinking with your head, start thinking with your heart. Stop being so selfish with other people's lives. You don't have the right to claim. They don't exist. And I really doubt you would want to live in a world where they did. Thank you. And I will submit these in writing to the clerk so you have them for the record.
Thank you. Good night.
Night.
And that was the only comment, Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Okay, next on the agenda is council and administration comments and response to citizen comments. I'll turn to administration first. Any comments?
Yes, I have one comment. So that person had mentioned that there was some issues going on and no work was being done. So the contractor had stopped work because of some COVID issues with his crew. So that's why there's no work being done right now.
Oh, with the lagoon.
With the lagoon, sorry. Yeah, with the lagoon. And I believe that Doug had told me that I believe Mr. Lehman can come maybe and do a short presentation on the lagoon, but I'll check on that. But I'm pretty sure that's what Doug told me today.
Okay.
I got 2 things. One, I just wanted to highlight there's a really awesome article in this week's Sewer Journal. It's about Nixle alerts. Sam McDavid at the Journal has been awesome to work with. I've talked to him several times. So if you haven't, please check out that article. For the folks that are watching at home, please sign up for Nixle if you haven't already. We had a meeting with the borough today about emergency response, and Nixle truly is one of our best ways to alert folks in the community. It's not just for Seward. If you want to keep tabs on friends and family around the country or around the world and other parts of the state, or if you're traveling, I can just say I've learned a lot about Nixle. So there's that. Please check out that article. It's also on the city's Facebook pages. I wrote a note. I'm not going to read the whole note, kind of just reflecting on the facial covering ordinance. And I just want to take a minute and thank everybody in this community. 2020, as we draw close to this year, is a very interesting year. I've got 5 kids, and I was just reflecting on the world that my children are going to inherit. And I want to thank everybody in our community who's watching this. I want to thank all the people on this body. You guys took a tremendous amount of time, I know, just talking to several of you, of listening to people's comments. We've all got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, so that we can listen to other people. And I just want to thank you guys for, irregardless of whether you agree or don't agree with the decision that was made tonight, a tremendous amount of people's just thoughts and input has gone into this. And then I guess the only other thing I want to close with is these are not easy issues. My wife's best friend has breast cancer right now and is probably going to die. Well, she might die. And she's terrified of getting infected in COVID. And so whether I agree or disagree with wearing a mask, and I'll be brutally honest, my opinion has changed. But my wife losing her best friend because she may not get COVID definitely changes how I look at empathy and how I interact with other people. So there's that. But we also have a child that lives in the greater Seward area who is deaf and can't read people's lips when she's trying to just be anywhere. These are not simple issues. These are real people. And so I see both sides. I see my wife's best friend who wants to live and watch her children grow up. But think about that child who is deaf and can't read lips. These are not simple issues. There's long-term, big picture impact, and these decisions are weighty. And I just wanted to thank everybody because we all, and myself just as much as everybody else, we all look at situations with bias. And we have to learn how to empathize and walk in other people's shoes and just consider what it's like to be that person, because you don't know what that person's dealing with. And so there's a lot of junk going on Facebook right now and just other social media platforms. And I would just implore everybody to have kindness and compassion, because we are all in this together. We're a Seward community. Mr. Borgeson mentioned this earlier. It was brought up by Tom Clemens. This is a fabulous community. I myself look forward to my children growing up here. But we all want to live in a community that is not just safe, but is also compassionate. And so I would just implore everybody that whether you agree or disagree with facial coverings, just as important is we need to treat each other as beautiful, wonderful human beings and listen, because these are not simple times we live in, and let's not pretend they are. These are weighty decisions, and I thank you guys all, as this body, for taking the time to listen to people and to vote based on your conscience. But let's just all proceed with a little bit of love and care for our fellow citizens.
Yeah, here. That's a good comment. Thank you. Thank you both. Council comments. Councilmember Casagrande, I'll let you kick it off today.
Thank you. I'd just like to say thank you so much, Stephen, for your beautiful remarks and comments. Very well stated. I'll just leave it at that. Thank you. I'd like to thank Attorney Brooks for the presentation, and I look forward to finishing my slideshow and submitting any questions through the clerk's office. Just want to make sure I understood that correctly. And thank Chief Clemens for all of his years in service, not just to the community of Seward, but to the entire state of Alaska. And Chief Clemens, if you're listening, I wish you well on your journey into retirement. And Montana's a beautiful place to go rest. So, yeah, congratulations. Also wanted to let anyone that's listening know that there is a survey that was in the city manager's report for the 2.66 acres of the Jesse Lee home. It's a survey monkey, and it looks like there's a tentative work session on December 1st. Maybe the administration can reiterate that. But it's just a really important time right now, and I encourage, the children to get involved in these surveys. So anybody that can reach out to friends or whatever and let them know that there's a survey out there and Seward wants to hear, that would be awesome. And I'm really looking forward to having our meetings on Zoom. Would be nice. There's a 10 or like 15-second delay, so I try to see you guys on YouTube, but it delays and it's kind of weird, and I get lost sometimes between my eyes and my ears. But yeah, if we could keep on proceeding moving forward, I would like to be as in person as possible, and Zoom seems to be the answer. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Casagrande. Next, Councilmember Demas.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to thank Brenda and everyone in the clerk's office for working on getting the meetings on Zoom. I think that's going to be really important, and I think that a lot of people are going to be really happy to see that. I want to thank and congratulate Chief Clemens on his retirement and for all of his service to Seward and the state of Alaska. And I also wanted to thank Stephen for his great remarks. I agree. I think everyone needs to move forward with love and care for each other, and just try to stay positive. And that's all. Good night.
Thank you. Councilmember Osenga.
Yeah, I'd just like to tell Chief Clemens congratulations on his retirement. Enjoy it and good luck in Montana. Thank you to Brooks for the training work session we had earlier. That was fantastic. And I also am looking forward to finishing looking at that. Speedy recovery to Sam. Well, that's all I need to say about that. Speedy recovery to Sam. Thanks, Stephen. You took my speech basically. I was going to do the exact same speech, but I'm not going to do it now. I'm just going to say be kind to each other, and everyone, please take care of yourselves, and please, social distance if you can. Please, if you can, wear a mask or facial covering, and let's just take care of each other. Thanks.
Yeah, good stuff. Councilmember Cease.
I just have a couple of things. One, I want to say I'm sorry that we're losing Chief Clemens. I know that he's getting much, much better now than he was, and hope that he enjoys Montana. And I want to thank Corey and the electric department for his service. I know he only has another month or so to be here, and I think it's great, everything he's accomplished while he's been here. And thank you, Stephen, thank you for your speech. I like that. And also, maybe we should get somebody from the biodomes to come here and check it out and inform us what's really going on, and if we have to have a bigger system or a better system. That I understand that when Linda said that it's supposed to be for warm water, well, this isn't going to be a place in Seward for warm water. So maybe that's something we can look into getting done. And everybody stay safe.
Thank you. Councilmember McClure.
Well, I want to wish well to Chief Clemens. It was really good to see him looking good tonight, and his wife. And he and I share a fondness for trains. We'd often find each other, run into each other, and my grandson watching the train come in during the summers, and had some nice talks then. Anyway, I wish him well. I heard a talk about extravagant giving recently, and this is a season of giving, and it's hard to, I know some people are really hurting financially, and some of us are doing pretty okay. So I really would like to encourage people to think about who you can give to help out. If you know somebody, just you could surprise with a bit. He will provide food bank, always can use money. There are many nonprofits, and if you have excess, this would be the time to extravagantly give, I would think. And on that note, I don't have details, but I saw on Facebook that there will be an angel tree through the fire department, and you might, I don't know, maybe we could ask after this how to get a hold of them, and how they're going to distribute. We probably won't all be in there wrapping presents this year, everything's different, but that's another way to give. and just have a safe and careful and happy Thanksgiving.
Vice Mayor LaPlante?
I would like to remind everyone that coming up this weekend is Shop Small. There's a virtual option for Cyber Monday to participate safely from your home, wherever you are in the country. And we can ship those things to you or local delivery. But there are over 50 vendors and makers involved in the Shop Small weekend this weekend on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. You can visit the Chamber website for their map. They'll also be giving away prizes with QR codes and scanning them at different locations. I'd like to thank Chief Clemens for his service to the Seward community and his dedication to the people here. It was really nice to hear his history and where he came from, and hopefully we can move forward and find another innovative police chief and bring us into past COVID and into the future. I also wanted to thank Jessica for her hard work for the last few weeks while Brenda was on vacation. I know that she has had a difficult pregnancy, and she's been a trooper. And she also attended the Startup Week call and gave information from the clerk's office. So I really wanted to thank her and make sure that she got kudos for that. Yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you. I also want to thank Tom Clemens for his tenure here at the city. It's been very valued. I want to extend my condolences to the Bond family with the passing of Joe Bond. I worked with him here at the city early on with my career, and just want to send condolences to his family. And since he was a city employee, yeah, I just saw it on Facebook earlier today, but since he was a former city police officer, if we could send a card to that family. They lived here many years. And also my condolences to the family of Jeffrey Odell. He also will be missed. So it's sad when we lose important Seward citizens. I hope that Seward citizens are able to realize that regardless of how they feel about the severity of COVID or what their concerns are about potentially catching COVID and the health effects, that we have a very serious crisis with the economic and the social effects of COVID. So it could be devastating to the city if you don't take some very minor precautions. We do hear from people that they don't want these precautions mandated. So I hope then that people take their own precautions. There's a lot of jokes on Facebook about these big Thanksgiving and it's everyone, God, country, Thanksgiving. But I do want to say that what's our final goal? One of my goals is to get kids back in school. I want to see businesses stay open. I think that we owe it to our neighbors to have an economy to keep our schools and our hospitals going. I want to see people working. Winter sports are already pushed back. Like, our kids in Seward do not have any school sports because of our numbers. So I hope that people take that into account and stay 6 feet back from people, wash their hands, try to keep their bubble smalls. We don't even know if we're going to have skiing, and that's an outside sport. Basketball is postponed. These kids need those health activities for their own mental health and to build up their physical health. Not just that, but kids are losing opportunities at college scholarships because they don't have the numbers, they don't have the games. Let's just be considerate of our neighbors. I know every time we tell our kids not to touch a hot stove, that's the first thing we do. As council, we don't want to tell people something that then they're going to go out and do the exact opposite. So I'm just asking people to consider what your goals are and how to get there. Wash your hands, keep your bubble small. And I appreciate your words. I think if we just looked, if you ever read To Kill a Mockingbird, if you walked in someone else's shoes, that goes a long way. And shout out to my good girl, Nora Mallory. You know who you are, babe. We'll see you next time.
Nora Mallory?